Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Wednesday, November 24th. Took a bit of a nap, so I'm starting a little bit later than I had been, which would have been more closer to 10 a.m. But not too late really. I am done with Cat Quest for the accountability section, which is not to be confused with saying that I 100%ed Cat Quest. What happened, basically, I think, with Cat Quest as an abridged RPG, is they just didn't really think things through well. There's at least, I would say, probably close to 7 items, that pieces of weapons or armor that you can get in Cat Quest that once you get them really have no value. They're so overpowered that there would be no way you can ever not use them, or it'd be very hard to justify not using them. And 3 of those items are actually so overpowered that they were nerfed in a later update, and they're still way too overpowered. However, that's not even the real problem with Cat Quest. The real problem with Cat Quest is that you play the game through once and you have a very generic abridged RPG, short RPG that took me probably less than 25 hours. And then everything that sounds good in that description gets spit all over, just pooped on, with the New Game Plus. There is a New Game Plus where you can play the game a second time using your same stats. So I ended the game having visited like every single cave. There aren't really dungeons. They're just these caves that barely have one tiny little floor on them. And there's very little variety as far as enemies, and there's no traps or puzzles or anything like that. Compared to Diablo, a game from decades previous, it is ridiculously low effort. I guess we'll just play a little bit of Shadowcraft and Portalcraft today. I don't even want to bother to try and re-roll this for more gold, actually. It is just not like thought through. Like, you playing the game through once is fine, but that's pretty much all you can do. Don't try to get all the achievements, because the New Game Plus could let you level up your character a little bit more. So I was at 95, you can get to level 99 that I imagine you max out, which is a problem because you get a free refill on your mana and health every time you level up. And many times in the game, I benefited heavily from specifically timing when I was going to level up to get that free mana and health, considering the game has no potions of any sort. The only way you refill health is either by casting a healing spell, which is one of, I believe, 6 spells in the entire game, and that's it. Oddly, in the pause menu, there's like a whole tab section that is just missing. Like, it really obviously is an unfinished game, and at some point I kind of wonder if it wasn't going to be an abridged RPG as much as it was just going to be a regular RPG, and its budget got abruptly cut. There's a twist in the story I won't spoil, but the twist is kind of sucky, and it doesn't help the story in any way.
Do not seek what is not there.
Actually, I guess there's 2 twists that are kind of sucky and don't really help the story in any way. Yeah. So you can kind of have a good single playthrough, fine, just experience it, but then there's really no reason to do New Game Plus and get up to level 99 and grind up your individual weapons because when you get, there's only probably about 60 weapons in the game, 60 or 70, and when you get a second duplicate of that weapon, it goes up in level, but sometimes that's pre-programmed, so you go from, like, the first time you get something, it might be level 1, second time you get it might be level 33, all the way up to 99, so you may have to do 3 different playthroughs potentially on some items, get something up to level 99, but that doesn't really help you in the New Game Plus, which is modified New Game Plus, basically. And that's where all the remaining achievements are. There are
the perfect mix.
specific achievements for beating the game with each of the modifiers over. Beating the game from the beginning all the way to the end, which is actually not that long. It would take you probably about 40 minutes if you have the one modifier on that lets you carry over your level and your equipment from the main game. But if you turn on that one modifier, then you don't get rewarded for having the other modifiers on. So you can get all the achievements, but you can't get the, like, custom set armor. And I think there might be an achievement for getting all the custom set armor, so you still can't get all the achievements. One of the modifiers locks you at level 1. You can just never level up at all for the entirety of the game. That's insane, but somewhat doable if you can bring your equipment over, because once your equipment is brought over, that works. A different modifier locks you to being naked, effect is what it's called, in such that you then
the ordained hour has arrived.
you can never equip any equipment at all. So if you have the naked modifier, you can bring over your character, and it might be the same level, but I don't think it actually is. I think you just would start at level 1 naked, and then you would have to grind like crazy. Then another modifier makes the enemy stronger, which really just highlights how you'd never be able to use. You would have to really, really struggle to beat the game with stronger enemies and being naked and being trapped at level 1. And then the only other modifier in the game is what is the other modifier? Stronger enemies, naked, level 1, and maybe there isn't another modifier. I think there is, but I can't even think of it. Regardless, I spent about an hour just kind of playing with it and trying to figure out if there was some possible way that this would make sense. But there just isn't. Like, just straight up, there's no way whatsoever that you can you can justify or explain trying to play the game with those modifiers enabled to get all the achievements, or with some of those modifiers, one of each modifier enabled, to get like one of the legendary pieces of armor that maybe you get to keep the legendary piece of armor with the other runs, but probably not. So, like, arguably, you would play like the naked run first, because if you did get the one piece of the legendary armor, then using the trapped at level 1 rank 1 modifier next, you could use that armor to help you. The other modifier is the 9 lives modifier, which, yeah. So yeah, you could probably play the game with 9 lives and beat it. I wouldn't be surprised if I barely died 9 times when playing the main game to get the first legendary piece of armor. Then you could probably, if that carries over, play the game a third time with the level 1 piece of armor enabled, but actually you would have to have 9 lives and level 1 equipped. It just, no matter how you shake it, like I think I thought of pretty much every single scenario, and yeah, no matter how you consider it, it never makes sense.
Fitting end. Blessed is the promised day.
So yeah, having done everything in the first playthrough, having had my fill, I was done with Cat's Quest. I think I'll try and play the Batman Telltale series, even though every time I play a Batman game it just gets all content ID copied, but right now that doesn't really matter. Next, and then the whole point of playing Cat's Quest was to kind of think about, can I get into the mood of playing Ni no Kuni? I think we were there. I really need to clear up some room on my hard drives and my SSD first, but darn it. Alright, well. Rush spell boost. Rush spell boost the cards in your hands twice.
This isn't your run-of-the-mill spell.
I think I've lost her. Now, YouTube, and I guess that's pretty much the entirety of the accountability section right now. YouTube has teased that they're going to add new features to uploading things to potentially make it a little bit faster. But by the time they actually implement that, that probably won't help me too much for now, so I still need to upload and schedule things. I am, right now, I've turned off half of my lights. It could straightly, like, my eyes have been giving me a little bit of trouble lately, where things have just felt dim. But I did also just, like, change the visuals on my TV, my old TV, so I wouldn't be surprised if it actually is just my old TV is dim. And I may just straight up need to turn the brightness up. But the inconsistent part about that is the weird part. So I have like 400, maybe even 120 watt equivalent light bulbs in lamps in my room, so I've turned them off. So instead of having 400 to 480 watts of pure white bright light flooding the room, I've brought it down to 200, making it a little bit dimmer. I'm hoping that maybe I've just like exhausted my eyes somewhat lately, because that is definitely concerning. Like, I imagine it's true for most people, but for me, I don't know how I could possibly manage at all if my eyesight went particularly bad. Particularly if it happened very fast. It'd be a different situation if the eyesight started going slowly, and if there was hope of repairing. I probably haven't actually seen an eye doctor in in a very long time, so probably should go see one. Of course, right now around Black Friday and Thanksgiving, which that is, I suppose, a big thing that's happening right now, would be it'd be undoable. Black Friday sales are happening, but I am trying very hard to not fall into them. There are a few things I need to buy, but also I am definitely thinking from a more of a perspective of things I wanted to buy before the sales happened, first and foremost. Newegg seemed to have, as much as you should not trust Newegg these days, they seem to have a pretty good deal with some 8 terabyte NAS network attached storage hard drives from Toshiba, which at this point I would probably recommend anything other than Western Digital as far as hard drives, which basically means either Samsung or Toshiba, and that's about it. I think Western Digital owns Seagate, but I could be wrong. The main parent companies have gotten, there is only about 3 companies now that make spinning physical hard drives anymore, and it's mostly going to SSDs, which doesn't work when you're trying to get like 8 terabytes or large amounts. But this 8 terabyte hard drive on Newegg was started at like $240, which sounds a little expensive, but not too much, particularly in the middle of everything else going on and shortages. And it got down to about 120, so it was almost half off. So that's not too bad of a deal. There's some CO2 monitors that were on sale, so I decided to get several of those. You're supposed to have them in every bedroom, and they're supposed to be set 5 feet up, and I only have one in the kitchen right over the oven range where it's not supposed to be, and it also has never gone off, which makes me heavily suspect it's broken.
Shutting down.
Good.
Yeah, and you're supposed to replace smoke detectors every 10 years, or CO2 detectors every 10 years also. Supposed to just basically replace everything every 10 years. And there's actual legitimate reason for that, because it has an actual radioactive molecule it uses, or at least not smoke detectors I know do, that would break down and lose their accuracy.
That was almost amusing.
And one hopes that these are accurate devices. I'm experimenting right now with moving the main screen, the Shadowverse monitor that I'm using, to the bottom. My setup is I have a monitor on top that's, I think, probably a 60-inch monitor. And then I have a monitor directly below that that's a 60-inch monitor. And then I have like a 24-inch, 30-inch monitor to the left where I have the chat and just monitor and OBS recording software and all of that. So ever since I set up that setup, I've always had Shadowverse on the top monitor, Chrome when we do the news on the bottom monitor, but actually virtually it is actually to the right of it, so I'd move the mouse cursor to the right to reach it, and that's still the case for now, but I would want to change that because that's confusing to say the least. Um,
Good enough.
All of you.
and
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
what I've done now is I've moved the Shadowverse to the lower monitor because I got this new recliner and that has put me at a lower thing, and I was getting a crick in my neck looking upward. After doing that, I also replaced all the extra cushions I had. So I have what honestly even compressed down is close to 3 or 4 inches of extra padding that I'm sitting on top of the recliner, which then set me up 3 or 4 inches higher. But still, even at that, it would be looking upward, whereas it's more looking directly onward for the lower monitor. So yeah, I'm gonna try to stick with this new layout. Plus, that means the actual game footage will now look a little bit better. There's just a higher dynamic range on my newer monitor at the bottom. Oh, and I guess for the accountability section, before we wrap up here, I should say the Tableau also was giving me a lot of troubles for the past 2 days.
The world called,
I
and
checked the wires, and
Bow before dark
because I have
dragoon.
not used anything with a coaxial cable in a fairly long time, I think I had wired up the antenna on the over-the-air DVR Tableau using registered gauge RG59 instead of RG6, which, yeah, there is a fairly large difference between using 5.9 versus 6. So much so, I don't even think there's
The primal
much
flame.
improvement that's happened after 6 was pretty much embraced, because it was just good enough for the time. The whole system's stupid, really. Like, the next step for any kind of cable over the air thing would be to just have everything go over digital, and that's almost certainly what would be happening now, is whether you're sending a digital signal over RG6 or whether you're straight up connecting Ethernet cores or fiber optic. Fiber optic actually makes the most sense, although it's expensive. So that probably is another factor as to why there has not been a RG7. Plus, if you did have an RG7 like come out, it's not just a version number, it's probably an actual sizing issue. So the amount of wire and copper you would add to it would be ridiculous. It would be way heavier, it would be way thicker. You may physically not be able to squeeze much more copper into the connectors.
Flames have got your back.
But yeah, I replaced all the wires to see if that did anything. But mostly I think the Tableau actually is just overheating. Even when I was setting it up, it was incredibly hot. So I suspect for the past couple days it was just overheating, and the overheating presented itself as it just losing connection and having to reconnect over and over again, which, yeah, that's a problem. Like when you're trying to adapt to TV and you're trying to make the argument that this is a better system because A, it's cheaper, although not 100% free annually, which it should be, than getting cable. The last thing you want to see there is a lot of buffering. With the Tableau over-the-air DVR, you are going to have some buffering at the beginning when you try and change to a live channel, which honestly, on Dish, it's not too much different there, but it takes longer. There's no way getting around that at all. There is more buffering to start, and when it is working and when it's not overheating, it's fine at that point with my network connections at least. But if it is overheating and then it's reconnecting, or the app is crashing, or the app is exiting out, all of which are what implementations of what I've seen, well, then that really isn't making an argument that it's a better system. And it's difficult already to adapt to something new if you're used to watching TV. And if there are multiple compromises, that's a big deal. And
The hunt is on.
I really don't want it to have to be a system where it's just rip off the band-aid and potentially let the scab bleed. But yeah, I think you are highly likely to have to potentially do that. It's just rip off the band-aid and cut off your current cable. In my case, that would be Dish, and just live with the Tableau and learn to live with it. But the overheating is a problem, certainly. It seems like maybe because I got a refurbished model, they may have just taken out the fan that might have been in it normally, because there definitely is a place where a fan goes, certainly. I also would have to wonder if by having the model that has the internal hard drive, that's adding more heat too, whereas the external hard drive and the USB power supply running an external hard drive might space things out more. But honestly, I feel like they've probably just put a inefficient core in there and they need a second model. And that will definitely be the big question, is certainly as far as the Tableau as a company, is will they update their software fast enough for my liking? Will they update the hardware? Or will Tableau just disappear as a company? That is also a possibility. I think there is even an argument that the commercial skip feature seems to be run on chip, and instead of like being run in the cloud, and that seems to potentially overheat it too. And the solution that is suggested is just to turn the thing on its side, which fair enough, but then that's just bad design. But yeah, it's not uncommon for things to be made so cheaply that there's a high failure rate, or there's not a lot of testing going on, compared to, say, something like an Xbox. And even the Xbox 360 had the red ring of death issue. Alright, well, I don't want to take too long here, so let's start covering the video game news and stop playing Shadowverse as much. The G4 now is a couple weeks in, and it does kind of feel like that X-Play in particular on their streams has gotten more in line with what you would expect X-Play to be, like the old X-Play, except for now it's got different people. Different people playing it in particular, or
Worship the primal
making
flame.
reviews, that there is seemingly a shift here between, and yeah, I'm just gonna constantly get confused here. That there is a shift between it making it feel a lot like Adam Sessler was and Morgan Webb were reviewing all the games and kind of ignoring the writers in the background as much, to now the presentation more is that Adam Sessler is with the completionists and other people actually playing the games and actually reviewing it, which there's not much of a difference there, because that was, it's kind of true always, is that there was
100% streak
some
and
level of the
0%
games were
fluff.
being played by Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb. Some level of games were not.
Hold still.
Alright, so we have a game here on Steam called Grappling Hook Ball Tournament, which I think we'll say no to. I also have put in a on-screen keyboard as an extension of Chrome. That way we can specifically click in search boxes and type things without me having to pull out a keyboard. Normally when I'm streaming that wouldn't really change much because I would be a keyboard right in front of me, but when I'm setting up and lying on my bed, which is to the side of me, the keyboard's not in front of me so much. I wouldn't really rely on that to do any heavy typing, nothing like scheduling a video or anything like that.
This'll be over
That
quick.
would be kind of ridiculous, but
Knowledge fulfills my existence.
yeah.
Pretty handy after all. Hold still.
There is, I think, going to be some times. It has different opportunities to
What'll drop first? My bolts
to
or
be
your tears?
used in different ways to set it up. So, like, I have it here where you click a button to enable it, and then it just puts a screen, an entire keyboard here. Then I assume this X just gets rid of it. You could set it up to have it automatically pop up, but I don't think that's necessary. The autumn sale is also on, so we should kind of consider the autumn sale. They're doing Steam Awards again, which is nominating games for the Steam Awards, and then the winter sale is the point where you actually vote on the nominees or whoever wins the nominations.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Nope, that was wrong.
Ah, the design fault lies with you.
That was so stupid. I should have done that.
Last job.
I am
Could have
such
done
a
that.
genius. Did I put
Then
it
I would
wrong?
have had the other
Let us
thing on the
learn
field.
together. Pretty handy after all.
I've got this under control.
I
Let's
bestow
see.
upon you my lightning.
So, like, nominating things, pretty much you can just pick your games.
Together,
Here,
Mr.
let's see.
Dragon.
We were gonna nominate something.
Good guinea pig.
You can pretty much either pick a game or pick something you've played that's come out this year, which the only thing I've played is Treasure of Barracuda, which is basically an advertisement for a Lego set, and it's a free game and it's a commercial, so I can't really nominate that for Game of the Year. What would I nominate for Game of the Year even is it's an interesting question, certainly. I don't
sleep.
I don't know if I know. Really.
Ah, the design fault lies with you.
Let's hit this one. Do we want to kill this?
Let us learn together.
I think you do.
This is part of learning.
I am such a
You'll
genius.
never catch me.
Pretty handy after all. Hostile life form detected.
I should have played this first, and then this would have worked.
Terminating
that-
hostile life form.
That was stupid.
I bestow upon you my lightning.
VR game of the year. I didn't play any VR games. Labor of Love. I mean, let's see.
My heart is a garden.
I think the running gag here is to always
Let's go, Mr. Dragon.
nominate
Hard-headed as a clam.
time
Such a good guinea pig.
clickers. Let's see.
Gonna have to fix myself up.
Let's see. The reason why I nominate time clickers is because I have 23,026 hours supposedly on that. So that's the running gag. Is to just always renominate it. Here we can do It Takes Two on this one. Because I think that probably is what would deserve the Better with Friends award. Outstanding Visual Style award. I'm so out of touch at having really only played old games these times. Like it's not super surprising that I don't really know
Terminating hostile life
anything.
form. Heavy impact sustained.
Okay, so this,
And lies.
do this,
Everything was a lie.
You'll never catch me.
hit this.
The truth
Perfect place to
will
land.
cut you down. What is this weird
Verifying access.
Didn't move fast enough. Most innovative gameplay.
What you want.
Let's try the Binding of Isaac
This
Rebirth.
conflict ends now. Shutting down.
Let's see. Wow, why can I not get the Binding of Isaac? The Binding. The Bind. Did the Binding of Isaac, I guess because it was DLC, it doesn't count. So the Binding of Isaac Repentance as a option is just not even allowed.
All of you.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna be so, like, so hamstrung, where I would literally just have to think about, look at a list of all the games that have come out in 2021. It's been a bad year for new releases, so that they're really asking quite a lot here. And one of the achievements here would be to play a game you nominated, so I could go launch time clickers easily. review your or update a review for a game you've nominated, well, we can do that. Nominate a game in each category. Doing each one of these gives you these really ugly looking badges, which gives you some XP, which I get. It's crazy that they're still doing XP.
My days of cowering are over.
View all my badges.
Power of mortality.
You have like a ton of them. So, yeah, your standard kind of nonsense around the game of the year stuff, which it definitely feels like they're really just moving. This is Shadowcraft, right? Oh, that's Spellcraft, isn't it? Which one's Shadowcraft? This would be Shadowcraft. It definitely feels like the Game of the Year nominations for Valve and Steam are just being done. The Steam Awards are just being done out of a sense of obligation. Certainly, like they have not grown as like this respected nomination system. If anything, I think the problem here is you're specifically letting normal people review and vote on games, which then the mainstream video game journalists, and maybe I'm using that phrase a little too often these days, wouldn't promote it. But there definitely is a truth to that. Like the awards ceremonies and the awards handed out by journalists are given much larger amounts of air of importance from the same people that vote on them compared to a popular vote. Like, and you can see that almost in any industry. Fan votes for like the best music is in no way as popular or as promoted as like the Grammys and industry people, and that is certainly how all of those award ceremonies very quickly feel like they are just circle jerks, and people lose interest in covering them. Honestly, I think I have like too much cushions now. Yeah, I'm starting to feel pain because I'm potentially sinking in too much into the chair.
Demonic blades have nothing on my knife.
As for the other things on sale, let's see. You have some Dragon Ball franchise stuff, which Dragon Ball Z Kakarot or Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission, maybe not worth it. There might be some DLC around Dragon Ball Z Fighters that I don't own. As for a big wall here of custom recommendations, like they're missing some things certainly about the games I play, in that they're suggesting Among Us, because I would never play Among Us because I don't play online multiplayer games. And they should be able to tell that if they were tracking even a basic metric of how much does this cost? It's just in the turn. Yeah, if they were even tracking a basic number of hours that I've spent playing online, they would know I don't play online games, because that number would be 0. Code Vein at $15, not a bad deal. You have your standard tabletop simulator for $9.99, goes on sale all the time. And this is where something like what's on SteamDB's plugin would be very helpful. 50% off for an older game is a decent deal, but I think you also are in this position where it really wouldn't hurt you to wait another 6 months to get Horizon Zero Dawn and play it, because it's probably going to still be 8 months or longer before you could actually play Forbidden West on PC. The thing we haven't been told is that there would be any kind of day and date release of we have not been told that there would be any kind of day and date release of Forbidden West in line with the console versions of Forbidden West. So there's a lot of reason to not do that. There's all the reason in the world not to play Battlefield 2042. And it's not even on sale, so they're promoting some games here clearly just under this top sellers category that are not even on sale, which I guess maybe highlights that if you pay for advertising to be on the front page of Steam, you may get listed on the front page, even if it is even if it isn't on sale during a sale. This Rocksmith Remastered 2014, I don't think is a big game. It just feels like it's a big game. Popular new releases. This would be a bad list to look at to try and do the nominations too. I feel like that is definitely a problem with the nominations too, is that they're not actively showing you a list of the games that came out that year. They're just kind of making you remember and know.
A fitting end.
Seems like they've rephrased the no last words thing. That's probably good. I would have a hard time justifying playing Shinsen IO, although I kind of would like to. But after playing Opus Magnum and being so frustrated with that, I'd question that. Slay Spires, $10 off. Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist is 60% off. That's probably a decent deal, particularly since you probably would want to get into the most recent Yu-Gi-Oh! Game as quickly as possible, particularly if you're going to play online. And then you have things like Tale of Arise, which are going to be these more niche JRPGs, so if you want to play them anytime in the next 5 years, it's probably worth it just to take the 25% off now and not worry about it. Or you could get into like Monster Hunter World, which came out in 2018, so not really 5 years, but 3 years old, for 34% off. Resident Evil Village is only 35% off, although I'd still want to play that. Doom Eternal, I totally would play. Half-Life Alyx, can you play this without VR? I think it still requires VR. Since you wish for Infliction. I don't even know what Infliction is. I have so many things on the wish list. Anyways, here we have some cat games. One very kid-friendly, one very much not. Which inherently that is going to be a problem with the category like that, is specifically around cats. Let's see. Inscription. Since you recently played Merrily Perily, this isn't a bad discount since it's such a new game.
This is merely the beginning.
Halo Infinite's free to play. I don't know if there's really a lot of reason to play Red Dead Redemption 2. What they really failed to do, since you wish for Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, yeah, these comparisons make no sense at all. They failed to bring back the other Red Dead games, and instead they tried to do the GTA re-release of the trilogy and failed miserably in that case. Okay, let's see.
Do your worst, evil spirit.
I'm coming for you.
Prepare yourself.
About time we made this two on. Meet the both of us. Huh?
Detestable.
Let's see. So there's this little thing here. I think this is just a decoration
This is
though.
how you do fireworks.
Clicking on it seems to not do anything. Yeah, it seems almost like it's just a page break indicator or a bookmark.
This is merely the beginning.
And of course you can just kind of scroll forever. You probably are going to get... Yeah, I think we should probably just stop at this point. You probably are going to get some trading cards in this cell. But it would be hard to tell. Like when you click on autumn sale here, you have very basic autumn colors. They didn't do a lot of work on it, obviously. Let's see. See if we see anything here as far as trading cards. Yeah. I'm not seeing anything here at all that talks about trading cards. I'm not seeing anything here that let's see. How do you get to your wish list here? Apparently you have to log in.
Why would the dead need a living wage? You see, I'm only getting stronger. I'm struck it. Get in there. Damn
I have
rain.
all the workers I need.
There we go. See if we can use the on-screen keyboard for that. I wouldn't be surprised if some of this actually doesn't work, like authenticators and things like that not working with the on-screen keyboard. Okay. Let's see. Four damage, and then summon to need this. Let's try this.
You beckoned.
And then rush. Kill that. Okay, so here's my wish list, and this is what I usually shop from. And looking at rank, probably
Swordsmanship.
not really worth looking at too much. It will remind me things of like Catherine, Classic, which maybe that's the Catherine game I'd want to play, or Leisure Suit Larry for $5.99. You'll see some discounts, but more than likely, if you're trying to be frugal, and I like to be frugal, you would want to start with the discount. And you certainly have a problem on some of these discounts. Like, I still think $3.99 for the upgraded version of Bulletstorm, the HD version of Bulletstorm, is kind of a ripoff when it should be free, but maybe they've painted themselves into such a corner that they can't ever get outside of that, because they've always charged, and now if they made it free, people would be upset. Also, if you want that Duke Nukem DLC, if it's still even available for Bulletstorm, then I think that's extra. We Happy Few for $5.99 is probably a decent deal, but you probably want the full game if you want the game at all, which is questionable. But generally speaking, 90% off is not a terrible deal. An interesting question certainly ask is this sale going to last all the way through Cyber Monday? Because you definitely would, or I personally would want to balance out the potential purchases from any other sales elsewhere. Amazon.com, for instance, is doing Black Friday sales, which they basically have no right to do a Black Friday sale when they also had a Prime Day sale. But also, I think at this point I've figured out, it took me maybe longer than it should have, I figured out that the lightning deals are pretty much the only thing worth even looking at during Amazon sales, and even at that, there's so many of them and they're so overwhelming that it's actually not worth looking at in that case anyways.
100% street and 0% fluff.
And the general idea of having a Lightning Day or an Amazon Prime Day that happens way before Black Friday makes sense, but it kind of would have been better if it had happened a couple months earlier.
What fine threads you have. This'll be over quick.
Like a game like this Candle is for 99 cents is definitely a good deal. And we would just do the standard thing of shopping here.
Quit while you're ahead, loser.
The Naruto games probably are getting really, really irrelevant at this point. I think it's kind of hard to justify that Naruto is still relevant. Some of these games definitely have been on sale just a month previous, but I didn't buy anything in the month previous. And it would be perfectly fine, frankly, to not buy anything in any of the 3 sales that happened, but I would like some new options, and I would just like to maintain some momentum. Let's see. So what I want to do here, instead of spending potentially hours actually shopping, I want to just generally show
Verifying access.
what I think might be worth considering of the games I haven't already bought. Divinity. So I think we'll mostly scroll down. Like this game Toki for $2 is probably a decent deal. A lot of these are going to be slightly older games, but some of them not. Like this game, 90% off and came out January 14th. Sims 4, kind of hard to justify because there's a Sims 5, I believe. Also, the DLC around The Sims is probably massive.
Tell me what to do, please.
Enemy identified.
Lame.
Let's see. What would be specifically?
Quit while you're ahead.
Crash Assassin's Creed Unity, maybe. But I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game in a while. Buying Ni no Kuni 2 right now. Probably a bad mistake because I wouldn't be surprised if it gets remastered and re-released, and I still have to play all the way through Ni no Kuni 1. The Sword Art Online games also have that air of quickly becoming irrelevant, whereas the Tales of video game series are not based on an anime, so they have more of an air of relevancy. I bet Far Cry 3 in general, it has been on sale many times. And that doesn't mean these aren't bad, these aren't good deals. It just means if you have a desire for a lot of games, there is a high chance that you would be able to pick up some of these games later.
And the rise.
Alright. This could do 3 damage. But that's about all I can do. Something like Train Valley for $1.49 makes a lot more sense.
Walter, Ranger of the Forest, at your service.
Something like Little Witch Academia. It is at the right price when it gets down to $5.99, but maybe not really that relevant. That is a problem with anything that's just going to be a Netflix cartoon,
My blade is autumn.
or a
I
kid's
am the
cartoon, or
fallen.
a kid's anime even. Is that there is just a high chance a few years down the line it's not going to be worth it. Same is kind of true for fighting games. Soul Calibur 6. Nobody really talking about that as far as I can tell. Although I am not listening to the fighting game community at all, so maybe it is being talked about still. Even My Hero 1's Justice, maybe not relevant enough. So the licensed games, there is an argument against not covering them. I've covered a lot of licensed games on my channel, certainly, because most of them were like Lego licenses, Warner Brother licenses, Batman licenses, things like that. And those have some more relevancy to them. Here we have a horse girl game, for lack of a better description. Discounted to $2.24. That's not too bad.
I am the fallen leaf.
And at a certain point, if you're going to play a dot hack game, you are literally just doing it for retro reasons, and arguably it's not relevant enough to look back at a old game like that. I don't even really know why Battlefront 2 and Battlefront is in my wishing list. Some of these make less sense when I think about it. Assassin's Creed Origins starting off at $11.99, but then when you get to the DLC, it's probably a lot more.
Hostile life form detected. Terminating hostile life form. Hostile life form detected. Terminating hostile life form. Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Wow, I'm starting to feel a little sick. I wonder what that's about. Well, probably has something closer to do with the fact that I have eaten like 3 bowls of heavy spaghetti and pasta and meatballs in the past 12 hours. Like, honestly, the meatballs tasted good, but by that 3rd bowl, even I was like, oh, this is too much carbs.
Hear the roar of my 9 flames. My fate is mine, and mine alone.
Normally, I would, in the past, I would have made a separate video looking at games that were on sale, but honestly, probably is better to integrate this into the stream. Maybe it would get me more views if I specifically made a special stream looking at shopping, but this is a case where, particularly if I was a successful YouTuber and I just had a significant amount of budget, I would live stream me shopping and I would have the chat say, what do you think about this, chat? And then have people poll or pick a game every 20 minutes or so that I would buy, like Make Me Broke type marathon. We could do something slightly different, less cold and clinical and just video game criticism in that situation. Duke Nukem Forever for $3.99, still probably a little too expensive. Clearly there are minimums that Gearbox has set, and very possibly there are contractual reasons. I wouldn't be surprised if there is what they call a MAP, a minimum advertised price agreement amongst publishers and such. So much so that the Gearbox tells Valve this is the minimum advertisable price, or perhaps some part or whole of the content in Duke Nukem Forever set a minimal advertisable price. That is why you often see cases where the websites will say click here to see the price, because they're not advertising the price, and unless you have to actually click it. Although I'm not sure if most of that is in bunk too. We could get worms. That was one thing I was gonna get before. Honestly, if we're gonna start running into things that are 75% discounted, that really isn't that much of a discount. Compared to last month, I don't think too much has really changed. I wouldn't be surprised if less than 15% of the games that weren't on sale in the last sale are on sale now, or vice versa. So it probably is heavily still the exact same stuff. Some of these weirder games for $1.99 definitely makes sense, instead of potentially paying a lot of money for something that could be very weird. And I'm still not fast enough, nor am I profitable enough, or profitable at all, as far as my YouTube channel, to look at one of these sales and say, well, let's just buy and pre-order games and buy the newest games possible. That doesn't really work. You know, if I did start covering more of the adult games, then, I mean, at that point I could potentially make less footage, as crazy as this sounds. And then if I made less footage, I would have less to schedule, and then maybe my YouTube channel would be a little bit less flooded with content. But that would be totally changing how I make coverage, because it would be a major censored experience. which I don't think that's how I would want to play it, really. If I am going to cover an adult game and have to censor it, it would make more sense to potentially just have very, very long videos, like 4-hour videos or entire long plays from beginning to end. Conception 2 here is $4. That's probably a decent deal for Conception 2 as a niche JRPG game with some weirdness around it. Let's see.
Lots of bones, but make it fashion.
I'll see you in purgatory.
Prepare yourself.
Looks like you've got. Aren't you popular?
Let's see. I definitely am at a point though where I have enough familiarity with my wish list, and I think I've done a decent enough job of curating things. Like these painkiller games probably are not worth buying. A, because I think there are better versions of the painkiller games that have been released, and I don't think they're historically relevant enough to need to buy the one version and highlight it versus another version. But yeah, I'm not coming into this list of games and saying, oh, that's something I'd forgotten about, that's something new. There is an occasional game I'm scrolling here and seeing, and maybe I don't immediately recognize it, but
That was delightful.
for the most part, this is just the same old, same old. And that might be more of a case that a significant, like, I don't recognize this game, for instance. It's probably a fighting game. Nope, it's a visual novel. So maybe there is a case here that some of the newer games are just not really going on sale as fast as I would like it to. Which that was the plan at a certain point, would be to start buying games that are only 60% off or 50% off or barely off, or get to one of these weekly, one of these annual sales and buying the game. I think we could probably remove this from the wish list completely. Let me think about that game. I don't think it's good enough to justify staying on the wish list. Banish an enemy follower. Summon 4 ghosts.
Do your worst, evil spirit.
I'm coming for you.
You see, I'm only getting stronger.
Detestable.
This is my fight.
You slapped me.
There we go. I guess I could have attacked. We're getting down to like 77% off games.
The world I love, I'll become a beast. You is soon.
Yeah. You see, that's about the 75% off, and SNK heroines for 75% off. This might be the first time that this is discounted at a reasonable amount. Killer Instinct, though, makes a lot more sense to buy. Killer Instinct might be a very good introductory fighting game to play, too. Onichanbar Z2 Chaos is like the only good Onichanbar bar game. So, yeah, I think that's about as far as I want to go. Because I don't even want to go deeply into the 75% off games. And then it is always the other order. And I haven't found any way to really optimize this. Like I look by discount, then I sort by price, or vice versa. It kind of doesn't matter. Getting the console for $5.99 is interesting, but I bet it's just the first episode, which is free. So if you could get all of the console for $5.99, that's great. I think the game, though, does end kind of on a cliffhanger. So, yeah, and you probably won't ever get a sequel. But yeah. Sorting by price, I should be seeing things that are free, and I should be seeing things that are 49 cents. But they seem to have some ways to manipulate things. There's some DLC here for 49 cents. There's some Sudoku games for 49 cents. Notice how these games are 51% off, but they're still at what is probably the minimum you could charge, or most people are willing to charge on Steam at 49 cents. Okay, let's just end the turn here. And I heavily suspect there won't be too much. A visual novel for 49 cents probably begs the question whether this is even worth being on the wish list at all. Particularly the visual novels, I think, deserve to be reevaluated. Where this one, for 59 cents, is tagged with nudity and sexual content, and is tagged as an adventure game. Although I would pretty much suspect it is a visual novel too. A lot of these adult games, I think people would just have to give to me as a way of showing appreciation. Some Halo games on sale, probably not a terrible time to buy them, because the adult games, I think I may very well just never have a great opportunity to actually cover them and make footage from them.
My blade is autumn. I am the
And
fall.
certainly I should consider using my time wisely as far as playing games, because you never know when the last game, when you play your last game or do your last thing of any at all.
There's our puppy the game.
Ooh. That sucked. But whatever. And I don't even know how far I would really go down the search of the prices in particular. And it's kind of not even worth it to look at the ranked games, because the ranking system, I haven't really ranked a lot of games, and it's not like there's a lot of games that I've added to that list that I've wanted to get. If I can't think of the game off the top of my head, then I'm not super hyped about it. And I would say I am definitely in a situation where I am not super hyped about most games that have come out these days.
This will be over quick.
It's this year, last year, it's not been particularly a great
The unknown lies beyond
couple
the
of
clouds.
years as far as video games being released. A lot of delays, and even things that did come out have been pretty bad, and there's just not a lot there that would interest me. I think this game Omnibus, really, I should probably remove.
Ready to pounce.
I don't know why it made it to the wish list.
Delightful prey.
This game
Exciting
Camp
prey.
W caught my attention, and at 99 cents it's not a bad deal.
It all starts with the magic
one day.
Hey, let's play.
Let's see, we're already up to like $1.01, $1.07, $1.19. If anything, I think the prices of games have gone up. Which, yeah, I would want to get this DLC, but I don't know if I own the main game. There's... Sorry, I'm yawning.
And stay out.
It's really just not a lot going on. Oh man, I could have made a copy of this instead of this. That would have been smarter. Yeah, there's no cost of living increase that's ever been, like, reasonable in most people's minds as far as, like, oh, inflation has happened, now games are going to be more expensive. We've always had this idea of games should be $39.99, then $49.99, $59.99, $69.99, and now people are pushing it with DLC and season passes up to $79, up to $100 even.
Blade is autumn. I am the fallen leaf.
But $69.99 is still mostly what people think video games
Part of learning.
cost. So to see some of these cheaper games start bump up to like $1.49 now
Like a fallen leaf.
is kind of harder to justify. It's not that hard to justify because it really is just coins in a bucket to potentially have even a 2-hour experience. Although I would say you always have to be careful what you think actually is worth an hour. While there is a lot of talk and attempts to say video games shouldn't be considered based on the amount of time they are,
We'll cut you down.
if somebody came up to you every hour on the hour and asked you for $1, they'd be pretty annoying. If you're working $10 an hour and then all of a sudden you're paying $1 an hour to that person, you've lost 1/10 of your income, and that would be pretty annoying. Sure, $1.50 is nothing to most people, but it should be something to people. It's a false narrative to just assume it's nothing. And it's hard to even get outside of that pricing, because if this was a 10-hour game for $1, for instance, just to pick a game, 10 hours for $1 is probably a pretty great deal. But on the other hand, if you were being paid $10 an hour and, well, I guess at that point it probably doesn't matter. I don't think anybody's gonna complain about spending $1 if they're being paid $10 an hour, assuming they're getting somewhere around 40 hours a week, which maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I guess that highlights the difference between getting $10 for birthday money when you're a kid and can't work a job versus being an adult or a young adult that can work at least part-time and get at least 20 hours a week. Although maybe we won't even see too much of that going forward.
Useless puppets get no love. pretty handy after all. Hostile life form detected.
Alright, that looks good. So yeah, I don't know really where I would draw the line here. It's like there's different ways to contextualize it. I definitely know if something was $5, I probably wouldn't just buy a game because it's $5. There is a decent chance I would buy like the Art of Murder series for $1.49, but then because there's so many of them and 2 of them are very negative, it's kind of hard to justify spending 5 times $1.50, which then gets you to $7.50
My blade is
in
autumn.
total for a
I am the
series.
fallen leaf.
And that's where episodic and just serialized games start to not make so much sense. Yeah, you have a visual novel for $1.49. But honestly, if I buy more than 2 or 3 more visual novels, it's going to feel like I'm just buying visual novels to support the industry with no intention of ever playing them. I'm already kind of probably going to do that with the Worm series, as being a multiplayer focused game.
Sustained.
I'll get it for historical reasons, and that's about it, just to spotlight them. Let's see.
Sustained.
Glass Masquerade for $1.64 is a pretty good deal. I've wanted to get this Oregon Trail Director's Cut, even though I think it is mostly a joke game. Probably would never actually get Warhammer 40k, so getting the DLC is probably off the table. Always. Okay, hit this. And then do this. And then do this.
And the lies.
And then do this.
Everything was a lie. You're kidding me. The truth will cut you down.
Verifying access.
Truth and the lies. Everything was a lie. The truth will cut you down.
Just play a whole bunch of cards. Yeah, I think $2 would probably be the right point to cut off here. Winnie the Pooh, Disney's Winnie the Pooh from 2014 for $1.79 is not a bad deal. If you're looking for a kids game. If you're not, then I don't even know what this game is. It just looks like it's a adult game that somehow made it to the wish list because it was popularly reviewed. Siberia. I should get these games and cover them. I think I confuse Siberia with a different game series a lot. Return to Zork is historically relevant, so $1.97 for that makes sense. I think 13 for $1.97 is worth it, but it was pretty poorly reviewed when it first came out, so your prices are going to heavily affect whether that's worth it. City of Brass, kind of hard to justify even at $1.99 since it had kind of an online element to it, I believe. But when you keep it below $2, State of Mind for $2 is worth it, whereas it's been overpriced. A lot of these games have been really overpriced. Some of these point and click games would probably be worth it. Let's see if there's anything else worth highlighting. It's kind of funny, once we started getting above the $1.79 mark, we started to see a few more games that actually do catch my eye, where a lot of those other games have been on sale so many times before.
I hold purgation in my hands.
Oh, I played this terribly.
I'll see that you carry out your mission.
The first snowfall.
Sleep.
I should have evolved this
It's
first.
never over.
Then played this.
Go.
Run on home, everybody!
If he manages to not destroy this, I evolve next turn and I win. But I imagine he will. So yeah, over the years of buying games, I might be more closer to the $1.99 level of the games that I really would want to buy. Bridge Constructor Portal. Seems kind of silly to buy that without owning Bridge Constructor, but whatever. It's kind of a different game too.
Hey, let's play!
And it seems like a lot more games are $1.99. And I want to get this Fallout 4 DLC so I could just play Fallout 4. Which arguably I should just play Fallout 4 as an RPG game before I play Ni no Kuni. I hadn't even thought of that. Well, I lost.
Carry out the mission.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you? What fine threads you have.
Carry out
This
the
will be
mission.
over quick.
Accept harmony.
Ah, the design fault lies with you.
What adorable, ephemeral lives.
Yeah.
Rot and ravage, dear forest.
I don't know if I have much else to say as far as these games. It does just seem like it is going to... There's a lot of games here where you could buy quite a bit of them for
You are.
like $2.
Hey, let's play.
And typically what I end up doing is I'll buy one big ticket item and maybe two big ticket items and then several medium ticket items and then a lot of small ticket items, cheaper items. There we are, we're at the $2 mark here, and I think that's as good of a place as I need to kind of stop generally browsing. If I look by rank, again, these are not particularly ranked. Like the first 100 games are probably somewhat ranked, but not even that much. We should look at the point shop just to see if there is anything special happening here. Yeah, there's some autumn stuff you can buy, but that's about it at the point shop. If anything, they're de-emphasizing the point shop itself because they never had any intention of really having the point shop be anything. They were simply using it as a way to get rid of the marketplace, which I think it still will take them a while before they actually get rid of the marketplace, but that is my assumption as to what is going to happen.
The miasma pervades all.
Yeah. And half of these point shop profiles and things are just from lewd adult games. So people can let their freak flag fly, which I don't have a problem with that, certainly, but it does highlight where they're coming from. Let's see,
Meow-wee.
is there a bestsellers
Power of mortality.
category here that might help you better? Well, you have all these categories, and they seem like they're randomized. So this time, it was free to play at the very beginning, but it does seem like they're just in no real order. Featured franchises, I guess, is your best bet. Here. I don't know why this is so blurry. I don't have a blur filter on these. Probably because these images have been blown up to a scale they were never intended to be at. Yeah. I probably don't have like Youngbloods, but Youngbloods is mixed, so $5.99 is probably not a terrible deal for them, but also I haven't played the Old Blood yet as far as the Wolfenstein series. I think I have everything from Middle-earth. I don't have The Witcher 3 on Steam. I have it on Good Old Games, which I'd like it on Steam. Far Cry games are always going on sale. Dragon Age Inquisition or Dragon Age games in general are on sale, so maybe it would be a good time to catch up with that. I think I mostly own all the Star Wars games. I guess I could get Fallen Order. That wouldn't be a bad idea. It's 63% off. I don't think the Mafia games are really worth playing. I'm not sure about the Divinity Original Sin series. I don't own any of the Yakuza games. Catching up with the Resident Evil games wouldn't be a bad idea too. Like, some of these I really don't care about. Sonic Mania for $4.99 is probably not a bad deal. Darksiders Genesis for $9.89 is probably not a bad deal. Like Devil May Cry, though, HD collection for $19.79 is probably as best as you're gonna get, but it's pretty expensive. No real reason to buy the Metal Gear Solid franchise, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm ever gonna play any more Dark Souls. Deus Ex, I have Mankind Divided. I haven't played Mankind Divided, come to think of it. I've totally forgotten about the fact that I have Mankind Divided and not played it. That's pretty bad. And yeah, Farming Simulator is nothing. I think I've covered all of Dead Space at this point, and they're going to do that Dead Space reboot, which we haven't heard anything new about, but in all fairness, we shouldn't have heard anything new about it. Dead Island games. They are really just picking a whole bunch of categories of franchises that I've covered or at least looked at. Conan Exiles still being promoted. Interesting. Sims 4 maybe is the newest game. I guess it is. I thought they were up to Sims 5. I haven't played any of the Max Payne games. I probably should. Trine 2, I don't think I've played. Tomb Raider. Maybe I have the newest Tomb Raider game. What is the Shadows franchise? I don't even know what this is. I'm shopping. That's all I'm doing right now, is just shopping. Definitely not winning at Shadowverse. The Mass Effect series I don't think is worth playing right now. The Tom Clancy series I don't think is playing right now. You definitely wouldn't want to get Jump Force as that's being shut down. I could look at the Lego franchise just to make sure I have all the Lego games. I could look at the Assassin's Creed franchise. Shadow Warrior 2. I haven't played any of the Shadow Warrior games. I can look at the Command & Conquer franchise, but I think I own it all. I haven't covered any of the Amnesia games. This does just feel like this goes over and over again. Torchlight 3 is $9.99, but it's still mixed reviewed. It wasn't very good. I haven't covered any Crisis games. Yeah, really all this sale is telling me is that there's just a whole bunch of games that I have potentially considered playing or purchased to play, and I haven't gotten around to them. Wanted to see if there maybe is a bestseller list. Once again, another reselling of Myst being discounted just 10%, though it's not really worth it. I'll get around to it eventually. Playing a Persona game, Persona 5, probably isn't really worth it. And then, like, looking at, do you go global top sellers or do you go local top sellers? Let's see what the top sellers look like here. The Valve Index VR kit apparently is a top seller because maybe it's the most expensive thing that's coming from Valve. You know what's interestingly not being promoted at all is the Steam Deck, which got delayed. No sale whatsoever or promotion of that. So yeah, Cyberpunk 2077 seems kind of ridiculous. Deathloop being 50% off. It's really early for it to be 50% off, but it kind of deserves it too, because I don't think it's that good of a game. But just looking at this very first top list here, why is Village not on the wish list? Yeah. Psychonauts 2, I'd kind of forgotten about it. 30% off for a fairly new game kind of makes sense. Where 33% off for Raft is something that doesn't quite make as much sense. A lot of these games are fairly old, 3 or 4 years old. Or even older as far as like Tabletop Simulator. And when I look at this list, there is definitely a lot of games that I've just either chosen to not purchase at all, or I just haven't gotten around to it. Yeah, Persona 4 Gold you can play, but it's Persona 3 that people really care about. I don't think I really would care to play Life is Strange True Colors, but if someone gifted it to me, I'd get around to it. Cuphead, a lot of people talked about it. We got a quick disconnect there, which that's like our first victory for today. Was just boring somebody so that they would disconnect. So now we would need 2 more Shadowcraft victories. Here you have Valve Index headset and controllers for $7.49, no discount. Kinda could see how that could be discounted. I think at this point I have to put Hot Wheels Unleashed on the wish list. Like, even if it does have the markings of microtransactions, I am specifically ignoring the game unfairly at this level for fear that it adds microtransactions in the future, where in any other scenario it would have already been on the wish list and I would have simply removed it later if there was some controversy about it sneaking in microtransactions later. I bet this also is a list that just goes on and on and on. Like, see this Rebirth complete bundle is not discounted for Binding of Isaac, and that's what I really would like to buy. Some of these are very old games too. Some of these are just ultimate editions of games I do have. So if I was to really spend a lot of time, there's no reason to do it. I would go and I would ignore games that have ultimate editions that that I already own. And then you have things like Kokatsu Party here, where that was kind of a meme game, and it's probably not worth $47.99 at all, or worth playing even at all, now that the meme and the joke is gone. Or Succubus, which tried to be an adult game, but arguably isn't good enough to even justify $18.24. Maybe it is, but I'd have to really think about it. I definitely don't think I'd get into the Shin Megami Tensei series. Star Wars Complete Collection. See about that. Even buying the Index controllers is like $300. I didn't realize how expensive the hardware was for the Valve Index. I mean, I knew in general it was expensive, certainly, but I didn't realize it was that expensive. And I'm opening new tabs in the same window that I have all my news open for, and we haven't even talked about the news, and it's been nearly 2 hours. Yeah, this does seem like this is just going to go in circles. What I want to see, though, is what's the difference between global top sellers. Well, seems like, first of all, Valve Index is not #1. So maybe people outside of the United States don't buy it as much. You have Farming Simulator out. So my real question here is, what is time till anime adult game? I assume I'm not filtering out adult games here. Tales of Arise is an anime game, and it's clearly much higher in the top global sellers. And maybe this is a better way to figure out worldwide, not just United States, the West, North America sales, but also European, African, Australian, China, Russian sales too. Like when you look at the entire worlds and those other markets, how far do games really fall down the list? Even though those are markets that are mostly ignored, and very rarely do you see a game that is actually targeting Australia, Europe, China, Russia, that so much. Not any good games. You see a lot of Chinese garbage games and Russian troll games. Extremely few Middle Eastern games in general.
Like a fallen leaf.
For the most part, so far, it seems like the games are the same. They're just in slightly different orders. This game, Fate Seeker, looks like our first Chinese game that may not support English language. You have to get fairly down the list to even see that. You're not seeing a lot of cases of Japanese games being way higher, although Jump Force is definitely higher on the list as far as global sales. Part of the problem here you certainly will have is the confirmation bias, because it's not a 100% given that people in China or Russia are actually using Steam in the first place to buy games. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a significant amount of piracy in Russia and China just because you can't even legitimately buy things. I wouldn't be surprised if you have to VPN just to get to Steam in places like China, maybe even Russia. So that would severely limit the number of people from those regions buying things. Or if you are VPNing, then you may be VPNing into a US IP site, and then the metrics would be skewed because of that. Valve would think that you're buying a game in the United States when really you're in Russia. But yeah, I'm actually very shocked that we're not seeing a game like Mirror, for instance, the 99-cent adult game that was a bestseller a couple years ago. It is not making it into these higher numbers. In fact, I'm not seeing any adult games except for Kokatsu Party, which was the meme game, and that barely was an adult game. So I wonder if maybe this is also a case where adult games are being hidden. Once again, Valve putting their thumb on the scales, so it seems like less adult games actually sell. Although in all fairness, it might actually be a case that adult games actually don't sell, or what they mean by top sellers is actually top earners, and so a 99-cent game will never get on this list because it's not charging enough in the first place. That could also be the case. And then you run into things like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which I don't think is a particularly good game, but it probably was a fairly high earner, high seller, just because a lot of people talked about it and promoted it and heavily over promoted it for a game. Here's our Atlas Ryza game that way down on the list, right next to what looks like just a standard horror game. Why is that a top seller? Did PewDiePie cover it? That'd be my assumption. 12 minutes. Again, a game that's probably overhyped and not worth really playing. Loop Hero, maybe the same case in that instance. Blue Reflection, I guess that would be a slightly lewd game, not really full of adult content though. Just implied adult content, really. Start again. Devil May Cry. Looking at this list once again makes me feel sad that there isn't like Honey Pop on this, which is a Western adult game that was, I think, very popular and probably does deserve to be listed on the top sellers. Here you go. The Kagura bundle would include Mirror and other adult games, I believe. But we had to get really deep into this list to see that. Then you have like Monopoly Plus here for $5.99, which is better than $14.99, but not by much. Alright, well, we need to cover the news today, and I'm thinking just the way these lists look that we won't see anything that is just outwardly obviously an adult game. Maybe again because these are actually top earners and not actually top sellers. Sellers would be the number of units, and there should be a lot of games here that would have been close to free. There we go. Honey Pop 2 Double Date. Way down here on sale, 20% off. I think that does seem to imply that these are based on earnings. Where in my mind, sellers would mean would actually mean something different. So as far as video game news, of course, Video Game Chronicles said Steam has launched its Autumn Black Friday sale, which has thousands of discounts, thousands of games, discounts on thousands of games, which, yeah, is probably true for any sale. And then nominate to Steam Awards. They've highlighted a few things here, none of which I think look particularly different, although maybe Maneater would make some sense. They also showed off Devil May Cry 5 on the Steam Deck, which doesn't really mean much because I doubt it is going to be a case where
Useless puppets get no love.
where all of a sudden we start to see games being specifically programmed to run natively on SteamOS version of Linux, and I imagine this is just them showing off that yes, this game, which is a fairly high action game, works with our, I believe it's called Proton compatibility layer.
There's our puppet again.
Let's see.
Pretty handy after all.
But yeah,
But make it
no big sales there. Here we have a game that came out more recently called Element Quest, which looks like it's a Avatar of the Last Airbender parody game. Free to play MMO with in-app purchases. It's not a terrible thought, because they have pretty much failed to realize that yes, you could have made more games, maybe not MMOs particularly, but some kind of game out there that was based on the Avatar Last Airbender series.
Hold still.
That one. Get that one. Play that.
Life form detected. Pretty handy after all.
But since this is an MMO, I have to say no to it. Let's see.
Keep it moving.
Take the souls of millions and arise! You beckoned?
I'm not lonely. Not with everyone around me. I'm glad you're here.
Apparently, Borderlands 3, in particular, I would assume it's Borderlands 3, has been counting the number of kills, and so they're waiting for people to get to the 200 million mark to get some kind of special head. Like, this video doesn't even want to play. Yeah, just kind of a meme thing. So yeah, they're trying to promote and have people play Borderlands 3 some more. Which I guess that makes sense. You would want more people to play Borderlands 3 if you were Gearbox.
Sustained.
I'll live again. Verifying access.
pretty handy
Just
after
go
all.
ahead and
Oh,
do some damage here. Yeah. Suppose Mist Suppose the remake of Mist
tour guide. At your
probably came out this year, and it just in the fact that Mist really didn't get a lot of awards because it was such a young game that it predates a lot of awards. A re-releasing of Mist probably does deserve some nomination. Let's go with innovative gameplay, outstanding story-rich game. I think that one works. Nominating it for outstanding story-rich game. That being said, it being discounted just a little bit, there's no real reason why I'd want to buy it right now. Somebody gifted to me it, I'd very much appreciate it, and then I'd cover it a lot faster, but I haven't even gotten around to finishing the Mist series of the original games, so I would be kind of going in circles.
Terminating hostile life form.
Just gotta hit this one.
Heavy impact sustained.
Verifying
This
access.
one. Do we have something to evolve
pretty
here?
handy after all. Gonna have to fix myself up.
Begin.
Ah, the design fault lies. I am such a genius.
I will protect even his death.
Truth and lies.
I think that worked fairly well. I suppose it was also worth mentioning that Cyan on their YouTube page is putting out some interview chat like videos that are pre-recorded talking about the remaster and the conversion to make Mist look better and work with VR. Mumbo Jumbo, guess there's nothing dangerous showing here, so this is Mumbo Jumbo's YouTube channel, and I have the extra channelytics in it. It has reached 8 million subscribers, and definitely I'm not trying to compare myself in any ways to him. On a bad day he gets 855,000 views, where I get like 65 views, maybe 100 views. Like I'm frankly surprised I get that many views in a day. On a good day he's getting millions of views when he posts a video. Honestly, he deserves a lot more subscribers and a lot more views, and if anything, this is, even though this was YouTube highlighting him and saying good job for Mumbo Jumbo as a Minecraft gamer, it I think pretty well highlights how the YouTube systems are not well designed to support and promote video game people in general.
Was a lie. Hold still.
Video game content creators. And maybe that is a bit of a jaded perspective, certainly. But yeah, I would definitely say if you are not subscribed to Mumbo Jumbo and you're interested in more technical design of Minecraft or just silly Let's Plays in Minecraft, Mumbo Jumbo is a good person that you should be subscribed to. He's very kid-friendly, and I don't think has ever had any real controversy around him. If anything, the most annoying thing about Mumbo Jumbo is that he does promote his other YouTube channel, which is a more van life lifestyle I think, Viking
I've got this
channel.
under control.
Terminating
Which-
hostile life
Yeah,
form.
he does very nicely by people by keeping those two channels
Verifying
separate.
access.
Guess we have nothing we can do. Ghost Story Games, formerly known as Irrational Games, makers of the original BioShock and BioShock Infinite, is having a Black Friday holiday sale for their merchandise. Meanwhile, they have nothing new to report as far as their next game that they're working on, which I'm not sure if they confirmed it was yet another BioShock game or if it was something different. At one point, it definitely was going to be something different, but I kind of feel like vaguely in the back of my memory, they did a 180 on that and then said the next game they were going to make would be BioShock related. At this point, it wouldn't be crazy for yet another remaster to come out for BioShock 2, BioShock Infinite, but there was a remaster already for those games but a few years ago. So they would have to put a lot of visual effects in it. In a funny way, the roving Big Daddy concept, if expanded on, could have easily been a multiplayer game or an MMO, or like a roguelike. There's different ways you could have taken the Rapture and the Land of Infinite, which I don't even remember the name of it. This game, Feral Flowers, I think I say no to. $5 English only. We may have to kind of get through some of these new games quicker. You could have taken those worlds and made spin-off parody games that don't even really connect to the story. But for the most part, they just needed to do something. It is in line with them taking forever for their next game. The BioShock Infinite also took forever. And the only reason we even got BioShock 2 is because the publishers had a totally different team make it. Which, in a lot of ways, I think BioShock would have died on the vine had BioShock 2 not come out, even though people don't really like it as much. And I suspect BioShock has died on the vine for the most part now. A new BioShock now might as well just be a full reboot to the series, because it's been so long. It will definitely feel like a returning to the series and not a continuation of the series. Moving on, Video Game Chronicles says the Avengers Spider-Man update won't include story missions unlike previous character DLC. This is the Avengers game I think nobody likes. December's Xbox Live games with gold could have been revealed earlier. Update, Xbox confirms The Escapist 2, Tropico 5, and more are headed to the service next month. Orcs Must Die, and Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, apparently. I have seen some good Switch sales between Target, Amazon.com, GameStop, Walmart. It's pretty much all over the place. I've seen some decent Switch sales for older games. I guess it mostly is going to break down to whether or not you want to play or have already played the old Switch games. Switch is particularly old right now, as like a 4-year-old console. Video Game Chronicles says Xbox has a new virtual museum that explores its history, including the Red Ring of Death. This is a pretty terrible way to display a museum, though. It's a kind of interesting idea, certainly, but I feel like they've gone avant-garde in their virtual museum, which seems to be little more than just a 3D model viewer.
You look kinda haunted. No, literally. Aren't you popular?
Just leave everything here. I would say, even though the Xbox is at its 20th anniversary too, it's not like there's a lot of history there. There's not been a lot of stories. I think Microsoft is probably a little bit more tight-lipped than some of the stories you would have gotten out of the first 20 years of Nintendo or Sega or even Sony PlayStation. So, like, pre the Red Ring of Death, there's probably 3 interesting stories that I would guess exist. And the Red Ring of Death was launch of the Xbox 360, and honestly, it's just gonna highlight how boring the original Xbox console was. I very possibly never even heard of the original Xbox until many years after it was released. It was just not on my radar. This is probably fairly big news, but not as big news as you would think. Epic Games has acquired the Rock Band and Dance Central creator Harmonix. Now, there is that dance game from Ubisoft, which I obviously isn't Dance Central. It will collaborate with Epic to develop musical journeys and gameplay for Fortnite. Basically, they've acquired them just to work on Fortnite, I would assume. Yeah, that's what they're saying, is musical journeys inside of Fortnite and gameplay for Fortnite. What they almost certainly are not getting is a large amount of pre-negotiated licenses for music songs. Almost certainly all of those Harmonix licenses were on a case-by-case basis and have more than likely mostly run their course and the contracts have expired. So it's probably nowhere as good of an acquisition as it sounds like. On the other hand, it's probably great news for Harmonix, because I doubt Harmonix was in a good space where they would be able to make a new Dance Central or Rock Band game and have that sell and make money. I wouldn't be surprised if they've been just living off the profits of the original Rock Band series and have been slowly losing money year over year ever since. Several of these stories came out right after the last stream. Nintendo's joined with Xbox and PlayStation in condemning Activision's harassment response. The Nintendo of America president, Doug Bowser. Interesting how they're letting Doug Bowser make the statement versus Nintendo of Japan making the statement. Says the company has to take action. Although, in all fairness, if Nintendo of Japan's president, who I don't even know the name of, because it changed over, I think, if he came out and condemned the harassment response of Activision Blizzard, I think then that would open the door for a lot of Japanese employees to point out that they've been maybe not sexually harassed, but harassed in many other ways in Nintendo of Japan, which is fairly standard in Japan. Like, they abuse their employees a lot. Yeah. There have been many instances of companies, not particularly video game companies in Japan, where the CEO straight up tells all the female employees they have to wear stockings, or their skirts have to be this height, or they have just like these ridiculous dress codes for the females. And in Japan, there is a young kid game where they like jokingly poke each other in the butt, which you definitely would, a lot of people have taken as sexual harassment.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Like, there are cultural differences there, certainly. And honestly, I think the movement towards defining and fighting against sexual harassment in Japan is at best in its infancy. And it's not just sexual harassment, just treating workers correctly in Japan is at best in its infancy, at worst nowhere close to being started. One of the things I think Nintendo in particular tried to do is add some level of red tape to it.
Why is it the string is so pricey?
Yeah, Doug Bowser calls on the Entertainment Software Association, of which they are a member, which is just a lobbying group, to take a harder stance. So basically make the lobbying group institute a code of conduct, which, at worst case scenario, had there been a harsher code of conduct amongst the ESA, then they would have just kicked out Activision Blizzard and nothing would have happened at all. And there might even be some political reasons why Nintendo would want the ESA to kick out Activision Blizzard, because then the split of the power would be split between Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft 3 ways versus Activision Blizzard. I don't know if there's any other major companies as part of the ESA. It's fairly stupid to expect or think that a lobbyist group, though, would in any way do anything other than cover up bad actions by one of their members. Like, they have really no benefit or no reason to investigate or do anything. There was an article on Reddit specifically, somebody in HR, I think, being extremely naive, saying, we want to help you in the HR, but you have to have all this evidence already so you can force us to help you because we want to help you. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think it matters really if you back up a truckload of evidence to HR. If it's in most businesses, HR are fairly corrupt and will cover up the higher ups' misdeeds, regardless. Like, and yes, having evidence is great to get a lawyer and lawyer up, which is really what you're gonna have to do, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't think you should ever trust HR for anything. Sure, like, it's dangerous even to say that maybe in some jobs HR is actually really good, because I think people have such a trusting nature to them that they would assume that's the case. As someone who once worked at like one job that had a terrible class store review and highlighted a lot of problems that I saw there once I started working at it, I very naively thought that I would be protected and I would be shielded from the bad actions and the negatives of that job, and nope, absolutely not. And I only thought that because I was working specifically in an IT field, and I figured the rest of these was being done by other bosses in other fields. And yeah, my naive nature and trusting nature definitely bit me in the butt in that case.
Why is it the string is so pricey?
The only way to get back to video games I could think of the ESA really like punishing or kicking out Activision Blizzard had they instituted a stricter code of conduct in the past would be simply to just cover the butts of the other members, like sacrifice EA on the Activision Blizzard on the altar of protecting everybody else's companies. And I think you probably still should look at what's going on right now as far as the condemnation of Activision Blizzard by other video game companies as a really just a case of like virtue signaling to protect their own companies. Like, moving on, MotorStorm's PS3 multiplayer has been resurrected by a fan group, according to Video Games Chronicle. Check that out if you're interested. I'm not particularly interested in that article. We need to hurry up. Apparently, Japanese retailers are taking action against PS5 scalpers by marking packaging. They'd write customers' names on sold PS5 consoles, is what one retailer is saying. This may very well also be a case where actually very little PlayStation 5 scalping is happening in Japan, but if even one person does it, it gets described as a pandemic in Japan news, so they often act harshly and irrationally. But harshly and irrationally a lot of times works too. Like, if there was only 1% of Japanese people scalping PlayStation 5s, and this takes that down to 0.1%, then I think that would be considered a success.
Do not sully this great war.
People like to keep their boxes, particularly Japanese people like to keep their boxes, or at least they used to. And that's why you get a whole bunch of box art, custom box sets of Blu-rays and DVDs. Maybe they don't care so much about that these days. But it wouldn't be crazy to see that become an industry standard thing where wherever you buy a console, you get your name written on it by default. In fact, you could even sell that as a service. There's a lot of expensive pieces of equipment that if they just stamped into a metal plate your name, that would help it be recovered. At a certain level, these stores should just register the game as purchased with a warranty system, and that would help a lot for like if you need to return it because it's broken.
Now the fight begins.
So yeah, there really is no excuse to buy something and not have a system that could very quickly put a warranty on the product, other than the fact that there will be a few people that are paranoid that say, no, I'm not giving you my name, I'm buying this with cash. But very few people are buying anything with cash. In most stores, in Japan actually, most things are being bought with cash, but ignoring that, like, it would be very easy to have a credit card, give all your information, name, address, phone number. I think all of that is probably inside of the credit card info anyways, and then register that with a warranty system.
I am such a genius. Such a good guinea pig.
I guess it's probably a case where people just don't want to
This'll be over quick.
people probably don't want to have to be responsible for securing people's data or put in any extra effort during a sales point of sale because it takes so long to check out anyways. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says the former boss of Nintendo of America, Reggie Fils-Aimé, bought an Xbox instead of a GameCube. He was hosting a Microsoft event. He bought a PS2 and an Xbox, but not a GameCube before he was hired to promote the Nintendo console. I believe Reggie Fils-Aimé ran one of the pizza chains before then, so that's not crazy, really. And at a certain level, it doesn't really matter. Like, I would have to assume Doug Bowser has every single console either given to him or he's purchased them. It would be kind of crazy if he hadn't.
Everything was a lie.
Terminating hostile life form.
Okay. This is going to
carry out your mission.
It's not gonna work well.
Verifying access.
I'm out of cards. Yeah. Video Games Chronicle is definitely trying to make that more of a story than it really is. Video Games Chronicle says Chris Pratt's Mario movie accent is phenomenal, claims the producer, which, like, of course a producer would say that.
Vice, virtue, avarice, tolerance. Vice, virtue, avarice, tolerance.
Yeah, which I guess the voice is the part here that you wouldn't hear in a picture, so I could see why people would be concerned with it, but
Shutting down.
at a certain level, Mario is a cartoon, and you just aren't going to get a Mario that looks like Mario. If somebody has a big round nose like this, they've probably got cancer on their face. The big old mustache that goes, like, if you really had this mustache, it would end right here on his face. That's how giant the mustache is on Mario. His eyes are huge too. You would have to do like a Battle Angel Alita type modification of CGI through the entire movie. His mouth is way bigger. So you're gonna have to just assume that whatever this Mario movie is, going to be different. I don't even know if it's a cartoon or not. Oh, it is CGI, so I guess the appearance doesn't even matter. That's why they're talking about the voice. Which, yeah, that really shows how little I'm interested in a Mario movie. I'll be interested when it comes out, but not even that much. It's gonna just be a kids movie. We know it is. It'll be fine. People will see it. People will forget about it.
Power of mortality.
Let's see. Video Games Chronicle has an article here. PlayStation is now facing a gender discrimination and harassment lawsuit. Like, just days after Jim Ryan, I believe, is the now boss of Sony Interactive Entertainment, condemned Activision Blizzard's mess. And this is exactly what I said. Like, the second anybody else condemns how Activision Blizzard acts. They open themselves up for every single employee to come out and file and make their own Me Too complaint, Me Too like complaints. And that's not to say that these are illegitimate complaints by any means. Former employee alleges she was dismissed, quote, soon after complaining about gender bias.
Prove myself.
Well, I have to say that, frankly, if you're a super woke, annoying person, and you're always talking about gender bias, or you even bring it up once, I wouldn't be beyond the point of being triggered at a certain point by that. And then when the monthly evaluations came by, thinking, do we really need to keep this person who's, I hate to use the phrase not a good fit, but rocking the boat or just disrupting every meeting. There is definitely a level in my mind where if every single meeting you have a specific thing to discuss, and you have a specific amount of time to discuss that thing, and it's always getting derailed by somebody talking about gender bias, that's a problem. On the other hand, if you're scheduling meetings that are super tight and then intentionally never bringing up gender bias or allowing people to bring up something that they actually see as legitimately wrong with, I assume, your games, and she isn't just complaining about gender bias in the business in general, that's also bad leadership. It's going to be always a delicate balance. This was a PlayStation IT security analyst, called Emma Maho. At a certain level, I would say, well, the PlayStation IT security either was not funded well enough, or she wasn't good at her job, because there's been several cases of poor security as far as PlayStation's networks have gone. Like, the fact that there even is a female in the IT department is kind of a great step forward, because it's fairly common for there to be no females in IT at all. And some of that may be because people as kids, girls as kids, were not pushed into the IT field. But I definitely know several adult females of varying ages that even to this day are just complete idiots when it comes to technology. They don't know a thing, can barely work a computer, and it's, at the end of the day, 100% their fault, because they've been able to lean on other people to do everything computer related for them, or they've just been able to avoid learning technology at all. Where arguably I in particular have been over focused on learning how to use technology, and probably have some lacking knowledge in some other fields. And obviously nobody knows everything, but I could probably have been more well-rounded. So I kind of, just on the face of it, am a little incredulous to say, well, if any females in IT, it's hard to believe that the claim that Sony tolerates and cultivates a work environment that discriminates against female employees who are subjected to continuing unlawful, disparate treatment in pay and work opportunities. I'd definitely like to see this case go to court. I'd like to see some discovery happen. If she can really prove that females in any field, any department, are getting paid less for doing the same work, that's illegal and wrong. But that is also often close to impossible to really prove, because there's just so many different ways you can cheat the numbers. And
You look kinda haunted. Oh, come on!
there is a bit of a disconnect also between the amount of education or credentials one have affecting your pay when it really shouldn't.
Rot and ravage
Society in the United States has yet to come to an agreement where if you get hired for a job, it doesn't matter what your credentials are. After that point, you should be paid the same amount as everyone else doing the same task. That's where that's more where a union job would make sure that's the case, where if you are an associate doing the same work in the same group, you will get paid the same amount regardless of whether you ended up getting more education or not. More education may lead to a promotion and put you in a different field with a different pay grade, certainly. Military also kind of has the pay grade thing. Now, in all fairness, union jobs kind of fail also in that spot, because then you have seniority coming into play, and then people who've been working the same job are getting paid more just because they've been at the job longer, which that too feels a little awkward
This is my
and
fight.
weird. So yeah, ideally everybody at the same level would get paid the same amount always, and that amount would be would be a good livable wage. I keep hitting my microphone. Sorry. If anything, it once again just highlights the stupidity of capitalism in general. And if everybody just had universal basic income and you got rid of the whole system of people being paid to work in the first place, it would be way more efficient and way more difficult to have situations like this. Like, the second anybody got treated even slightly badly under universal basic income, people would bounce and just completely leave the job. Seems like these are pretty much just lawyer speak as far as these claims. Like, there doesn't seem... That doesn't seem like there's really much of a story here. We have to get below the picture and see, they pointed out Jim Ryan criticized Activision's handling of discrimination and harassment. She claimed her superiors blocked any chance of career progression during the half-decade she spent at Sony. So she worked at Sony for 5 years, and she was dismissed earlier this year soon after submitting a complaint to the company about gender bias. She said her termination... Sony says the termination was as a result of the closure of the department she worked in, but she claims she wasn't even a member of the department in question. Yeah, Sony has been moving people around and firing people, I think mostly in the Japanese offices though. So, is this a slightly different scenario?
Death blows, music to my ears.
Do I want to play this? I don't have time anyways.
You're done for.
So, yeah, a story like this, really you're getting one-sided accusations here, and the companies really are not in a good place where they can respond to claims outside of court. At least the lawyers will tell them not to respond outside of court. So it would be a case where I'd like to see it improve. Now, arguably, how often are you expected to get a promotion in general? 5 years. I know people spend less time at jobs these days, and generally to get a promotion at all, you pretty much have to go get a different job, or to get a raise at all, you have to go get a different job and negotiate that way. But yeah, it's not fully logical that you would just be guaranteed a promotion in 5 years. That's not a long amount of time, really. The Epic Games Store Black Friday sales includes discounts on 900 products, which is less than thousands of products, and specifically it was thousands of games, not just games and DLC. I don't see any reason why you'd want to buy anything on the Epic Store specifically. I still don't feel like the Epic Store is in any way as good as the Steam Store, or even good old games, if you were going to fall back on that. Like, Xbox is apparently sending 20th anniversary gift packages to random fans. I wonder what list they would be using. Yeah, because it's not like a lot of Xbox people would have up-to-date addresses and things like that. You'd almost certainly have to assume that this would have been, they would have gotten this from people who bought something physical from the Xbox website or Xbox stores recently too. Like, otherwise it seems like it would be far too crazy. And I imagine these are only being sent inside of the United States just to save on shipping. Is it legal to give random things to people? I mean, probably. You're probably not getting into the point of doing a lottery or a sweepstakes or anything like that just to randomly give things to people. Maybe it isn't, though. Maybe sweepstakes have to be open to everyone in certain states. Probably not all of the United States, but I wouldn't be surprised if they had their lawyers tell them, actually in Alabama you can't give it to anybody in Alabama because it then would have to be available to everybody, and it just isn't, obviously, because they're picking and choosing winners. I suppose Xbox gives all kinds of swag to people all the time, though, so they know how to do it. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says the upcoming big PlayStation remake is reportedly Chrono Cross, which, okay. If they were going to remake Chrono Cross, I guess the question becomes, what is that going to look like? Can you make an old JRPG game like Chrono Cross, which I guess is the sequel to Chrono Trigger, so that would be more playable? I don't know, because I think they did remake Chrono Trigger a while ago, but I don't think they did enough to it that would get new people to play it that haven't played it before. I don't know if you really could do much to it. At a certain level, those old 8-bit JRPGs might as well just be cell phone games, because that's the only way I could imagine people spending the time to actually cover that kind of content.
Begin.
I like who I am now.
Not moving fast enough, obviously. Call of Duty Vanguard is $39 for all PlayStation and Xbox consoles at Walmart, if you're interested in that. Amazon is reportedly nearing a deal to make a Mass Effect TV series, where I imagine that would work fairly nicely. Basically, at a certain level, you're making a Star Trek TV series without the hang-ups and the obsessive fandom of Star Trek. On the other hand, you're potentially making an Amazon Prime series that may have a much smaller audience and may very well not have much of a chance of success.
Sleep.
Tell me what to do like this.
My fear certainly would come down to the idea of the Gelf, I believe they're called, in Mass Effect, being really your only enemy. And once you've played out and written stories based on all the other missions that exist in the Mass Effect trilogy, and maybe they'll even do some Mass Effect Andromeda stuff, I think you probably don't have enough enemies compared to like Star Trek, where you have like Romulans, Klingons, Vulcans at time. There was just a lot of different enemies, Ferengi, that showed up, and I think you want to see more antagonistic aliens.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Okay, well, play this.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our
There it is. With that. I'm gonna lose anyways. I don't even know why I'm bothering to play.
Watch as I wind and wind.
Let's see. Dragon Age 4's creative director has left BioWare, but the studio insists it won't ship the RPG until it meets its quality system. Which A, either means the game is not finished, or B, means the game is finished and they're just bug fixing like crazy. I wouldn't be surprised if he's left the company because of some HR reason again, and this may just be the new normal, is that people get kicked out very quickly as soon as they get caught doing something unethical, unprofessional, regardless of whether they are higher up in the company. Although I'm not sure creative director is more than just middle management, really, in a video game company. Video Games Chronicle has an article here. What's in the new Battlefield 24 update? DICE reveals big changes. I don't know if I care, but check out that article if you're interested. Square Enix says that Neo: The World Ends With You underperformed its expectations, which is very much in line with Square Enix. In fact, it's becoming quite repetitive as far as Square Enix. They are saying that about pretty much every game that they release or that they publish and somebody else made and they released. They definitely were saying that, it felt like, for the Hitman series also. The Switch's Mega Drive controller is finally on sale in Europe. It went on sale in North America a month ago, and they're getting the bad controller anyways, the 3-button versus the 6-button that Japan got. Mario Golf Super Rush gets its last free DLC with new characters, courses, and modes. This game came and went very quickly. People not really interested in it. I imagine if not this Christmas season, next Christmas season would be probably a great point to get a cheap copy of Mario Golf Super Rush.
What did I want gold again?
December's PlayStation Plus games have been revealed ahead of schedule. It'll be Godfall, Mortal Shell, and Lego DC Supervillains, apparently, according to Video Games Chronicles. The Switch Retro compilation Taito Milestones is coming to the West, which will be kind of weird because I don't think I recognize any of these games. I'm not sure if I'd recognize any Taito games though, so Bubble Bobble 3D Vacation Odyssey looks good, but that's not one of the games in the collection actually. The only name I even recognize here is Elevator Action from 1983. These are incredibly old games. Yeah. The oldest game here is Ninja Warriors from 1987. That might be based off the Ninja Warrior. Nope, it won't be. It'll be a made-up game. I was thinking of the movie The Warriors, but there was a Warriors video game, yes, but not made by Taito, I'm sure. Fortnite Chapter 2 wraps up next week in an in-game event called The End. Cyberpunk 2077 is including the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS versions, is on sale for $10. This includes the free new gen upgrade next year. I mean, arguably that's worth it. It's a Target Black Friday sale, but I also would see an argument to just never buying Cyberpunk 2077, particularly if I just realized that I have not gotten around to playing like Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which I totally should have done a long time ago.
Lots of balls, but make it fashion.
Aren't you popular?
There we go. Let's see. Serious Sam 4 has been rated for the PlayStation 5 in Germany.
This is
Do not seek what is not there.
verifying access.
PlayStation 5 version of the 2020 launch prequel seemingly is on the way. I didn't even know Serious Sam 4 was a prequel.
Emergency mode activated.
Serious Sam games,
Can I haunt you too?
I don't think really get nor deserve much coverage. Gamatsu's articles now. A game called Idara has been delayed to spring of 2022. If I've seen this game before, I don't recognize it. Yep, through the blurriness, you can see it's a 2D platformer hack and slash game. Like, it looks fine, but it doesn't look particularly that unique. Let's see.
A fitting end.
Go ahead and see if we can win here. Let's see. Gamatsu says Tiny Build has acquired Versus Evil and Red Cerberus. I think I recognize Red Cerberus. That adds 250 staff to Tiny Build. I'd kind of like to see a list of what each of these companies, as far as what games they've made, because like under Tiny Build, Versus Evil will continue to operate as an independent label, expanding Tiny Build's publishing capacity and contributing to its intellectual property in new genres such as RPG and strategy. I guess the same is not to be said for the quality assurance subsidiary of Red Cerberus. It is kind of an awkward position though, because you really don't have
Let us pierce the twilight slight here.
a game that comes to mind
Let
as
us
far
end
as
this.
Tiny Build. I think maybe they made something like the Escapist games or something like that. Let's see.
This is how you do
When we click on their name on Gamatsu, a game called Undungeon, Happy's Humble Burger, Spider Hack, Ramen, Secret Neighbor, I guess, is their biggest thing. Kill It With Fire. It definitely feels like Tiny Build is trying to acquire some companies, because they acquired three companies of names I don't recognize 9 months ago.
Let's do that.
I definitely feel like it's a case where Tiny Build is one of these companies that doesn't really want to make games anymore and just wants to be a publisher. It's easy to make money as a publisher, but it's also easy to lose money as a publisher. But you don't have to do as much work as a publisher, certainly. We already talked about Taito Milestones coming to the West. Terminator Resistor Enhanced Campaign DLC Annihilation Line launches December 10th.
Let the duel begin.
I think Terminator Resistance
Another night, another rupee.
was one of the games that the one Terminator that was kind of good, but arguably kind of short and maybe too expensive because of the license. I don't even know if it's a single player game. It might be multiplayer only. I definitely was not expecting it to get any kind of DLC of any sorts. The game Ever Forward for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch launches December 7th. This was a game that came out on Steam. It's a puzzle game. I don't think people particularly liked it. We could check it out on Steam, I suppose. Yeah, 75%. It's on the cusp of being mostly positive. That's better than I think it was on launch day, and I think some of these screenshots actually are doing a lot better job to show more scenes of the game, where it definitely felt like the entirety of the game was taking place in these environments, and that's all there was. Let's see. Asteroids Recharged has been announced for everything, due out December 14th. And let's see what it looks like. It looks like an Asteroids game, which means it looks like every other low effort Asteroids game on Steam. I think you really would have had to step up your graphics if you were going to make something like that, to the point where it wouldn't even be recognizable as Asteroids. You basically need a completely different art style, a 3D mode that you could then press the back button and go to the more
I'm in way over my head here.
more simplistic vector-based graphics. I don't know if they really were vector-based, but this would have had to have been the old mode, and there needed to be a new mode visually, and I'm not seeing that. And frankly, it'd probably have to be a lot more than that. See, Gamatsu has Xbox Live free games for December being announced, which we had already talked about. Let's see, at this point, I think we've straight up done all the daily quests. I just want to get through the news, and I guess we'll leave some games for Friday. I assume I will be streaming Friday, the whole Black Friday and Thanksgiving in America notwithstanding. Let's see. 12 Minutes is coming to PS4, PS5, and Switch on December 7th. Game, I don't think really that's that good. Sonic Origins compilations have been announced for latest platforms. That includes Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, and Sonic CD. Same games that Sega has been selling over and over again. Which, since Sega really has just been leaning on reselling the same Sonic games over and over again, it really wouldn't hurt for Microsoft to just acquire Sega at this point. And I think we are seeing the beginnings of the first steps of that happening. A game called Martha is Dead has been delayed to February 24th, 2022. This is a pretty terrible screenshot angle, frankly. If this is supposed to be a dead body, I'm having a hard time seeing if this is a boob. I assume that's a boob, but I mean, it could also be a knee, and it's just not a descriptive visual angle. This is a much better, like, jarring visual angle. Again, I'm not sure if this is a game I've seen even being announced. Yeah, it looks like it's probably a pretty creepy horror game, which has been a while since we've seen a pretty creepy horror game. I don't know if there's a lot of value in putting QR codes in YouTube videos. That seems like that's unlikely to get a lot of clicks or a lot of pictures taken of it, but whatever. Let's see. A game called Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeons launches December 13th, which it kind of looks like a Tetris game, but I don't think it really is. There might be an idea here where, since I really couldn't play the regular Shovel Knight games and people seem to love it, maybe I would give this a chance, but maybe not, because this does look like it's maybe more of a portable type game, even though it's for the Switch and the PC and the PS4. Yeah, there may not be really enough gameplay there to justify playing that. Plus, if I started playing a Shovel Knight parody spin-off game, it would just cause more people to want me to play more of Shovel Knight 1, which is probably teasing people with something I would never do. A open world survival horror game called Wrong Dust has been announced for consoles and PC. Explore a detailed and abandoned town. Problem with something like this is this easily could be just an acid flip horror zombie game with walking simulator elements, or this could be people trying to do a good job but just not really having enough visual polish, skill, enough animators or writers on the staff. Or in the rare scenario, maybe this really works and there is a Tales of the Walking Dead type game you could make, where you would explore an abandoned town with zombies. There probably is a chance that something like that would work. You just have to put a lot of effort into it and make a very good product, which is kind of true for any video game. A game called Greek, spelled G-R-E-A-K, Memories of Azure, comes to PS4, Xbox One on December 14th. This one looks more like just a 2D platforming adventure game, maybe a Metroidvania. Street Fighter V Championship Edition or Champion Edition DLC character Luke launches November 29th. I think we already knew that. I think we've already talked about Demon Slayer's update. It's now available. Gamatsu very hyped about that. It also adds a 60 frames per second mode, which probably what a lot of people are happy for. Genshin Impact version 2.3 update is now available. I guess it's still getting reported on, so it's still news. Genshin Impact is definitely getting a lot more press coverage than any other mobile phone game. Gamatsu says Capcom has teased the future of Street Fighter news for 2022. Saying Luke will be featured in the next Street Fighter game, which okay. 13th Sentinels Aegis Rim second anniversary celebration live stream has been set for November 28th. I would have to kind of jump back and think about what 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim even is as a game. It's a side-scrolling visual novel according to the tags. Yeah. And I wouldn't have really guessed that. Guess it's mostly a visual novel strategy game according to the descriptions. Famitsu has its scores for issue 1721. Let's see. Call of Duty Vanguard 32 out of 40. Clockwork Aquario 28 out of 40. That's pretty low. And then Forza Horizon 5 getting 37 out of 40, which is fairly high, so that's good news. I'm a little surprised Call of Duty didn't get a lower score, but 32 is pretty low.
Power of mortality.
Let's see. Utawaru Mono. Utawareru Mono 20th anniversary live stream happened, according to Gamatsu. Hyperdimension Neptunia Sister vs. Sisters has been announced for PS5 and PS4. This has been updated. It's due out April 21st in Japan. You have these Neptunia characters going in kind of a younger appearance. Last time we saw this was the characters were just in shadows. Here we are seeing they are going all out here with a very much the moe art style in which these characters are very young looking, anatomically incorrect, and they are going all out. We can also see because they have straight up like just a naked shot in the background, and there's a lot of lewd costumes going on here. So if anything, this is a strike at the heart of censorship from Compile Heart, specifically targeting a release on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. So we want to start here at this point and see what we're being shown, and then move towards how much censorship we may see as far as the packaging or what is actually in the game by the time it gets released, assuming it even gets released at all on PlayStation. We assume it will be, and as much as we assume anything will be that claims it will be. Token Rambu Warriors has the Ichigo Hitofuri Furi trailer, which I think we'd already shown off, and I don't have time to look up trailers anyways today, so forget it. The Utaware Rumono 20th anniversary title, Monochrome Mobius Toki no Takai, has been announced. Let's see. I think this is an RPG. What do we got? This is a visual novel. Seems kind of like a visual novel, but no, I think it's an RPG series. If the Utaware Mono series is an RPG series worth playing, I don't think it's on Steam because I don't feel like I've ever run into something like that. Yeah, it feels like it is a monster fighting RPG series. Yeah. Set in a more Asian specific fantasy world. And for the 20th anniversary, I assume this isn't a remake or remaster of an old game. So I would have to think about like how far one would have to go back to play Uto Walre Mono games. They're calling it a visual novel role-playing game. I wonder if Gematsu just labels everything as visual novel because that is just like the default Japanese way of putting text out there unless there's voice acting. Moving on, Link the Unleashed Nexus Reconstructed Heaven key visual trailer. This is not a game I recognize. You hear the name Link and you just kind of assume it's Link from the Zelda series, but one look at this trailer clearly tells you that this is more talking about connecting to some kind of virtual world. Seems like there may be some jumping and platforming elements too. It's kind of doing a thing I don't like to see, where the enemies are flying above you and you have to potentially jump to attack them. But I think that is going to be a major part of this game. There was that Gravity game series where you flipped gravity all around, that I assume probably had a lot of jumping too. And I think that was a fairly good game. Unfortunately, it didn't get enough sales. Clockwork Aquaria launches November 30th in Europe and December 14th in North America. It doesn't look like much of a game. Maybe a re-release of an older game or a remake of a very old, like, Game Boy or Game Gear game. And really don't have time to look at every trailer. Yeah. Looks like it may have been just an old arcade game that never came to the West. At a certain level, I guess bringing it to the West is better than not bringing it to the West and just having a smaller audience of people emulating it via ROMs. At least it's better for the companies to do that. A game called Transient Extended Edition for the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch and PC launches December 8th. Which I don't know if I really would want to play a game where you're a transient, if that's all there is to it. This looks like this has got more of a sci-fi story going on than just that, though. Yeah. I generally don't want to play a game where you play as just a homeless person. They're saying this is HP Lovecraft meets Cyberpunk, and okay. That we'll leave it at that and wait until we see more info. Tale of Iron Bloody Whiskers update is now available. It adds new bosses, difficulty modes, and more. Which I don't know if I even recognize the game Tale of Iron. Tales of Iron. There definitely is still this disconnect in which either games are getting announced and then I'm completely forgetting about them within a week or two, or games are getting announced 3 or 4 weeks from or more and I'm forgetting about them. And that's probably a good thing in the overall. It makes me sound stupid, certainly, but it probably is better than just being hyped about a game the second you see the first initial announcement and then obsessing about a game that isn't going to come out for months.
And so up.
Let's see. Dragon Ball The Breakers game system trailer and PC closed beta test is set for December 3rd to the 4th. So this was the stealth game in the Dragon Ball Z universe. Let's see if we can kind of show off how the game is going to work. So yeah, you're like hacking computers and avoiding explosions as a survivor. And so you're kind of stealthing and running from giant fights that would be happening in a Dragon Ball universe, which in all fairness, I think that would be a case. Seems like sometimes you protect a control point. But yeah, they definitely are trying to make something like Prey, I think is one of the games. No, I don't think that's one of them. They're trying to make some of these 4v1 Western games that have barely succeeded, really. These more multiplayer games, they're trying to make that appeal and sell in Japan or in the West, in the East more. I would have to heavily question whether that will work or not, even with a Dragon Ball name behind it. Yeah, here you can see someone's crawling. Here you can see they're trying to heal people with paddles. They've really gotten far away from what a Dragon Ball game would be about, or a Dragon Ball story would be about, because Dragon Ball stories conveniently ignore civilians or people actually at danger. Yeah, if somehow this was the game that succeeded, that I'd be very surprised if it succeeds at all. A game called Relayer has a robots trailer, which I'm saying it for pretty much every game now that I don't recognize these games. Yeah, this looks like a mech fighting game. Doesn't look bad. Let's see, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid bursts forth. Korogon Breath launches March 24th, 2022 in Japan. This is based off of an anime. I'm assuming Korogon is Dragon Breath or something like that. Say anime dragon girls and some other anime characters, anthropomorphic animals. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this is a deer or reindeer. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a unicorn. Wouldn't be surprised if this is just a ram. I haven't watched anime or any anime in a long time, so I wouldn't be able to tell you directly. Apparently it's a shoot 'em up game, even though they're really not telling you that. The romance visual novel Happiness Sakura Celebration is coming to the Switch on March 24th, 2022 in Japan. There you have anime girls, and once again, they seem to be pushing it fairly far as the younger looking moe characters, and in this case you're running into very little excuse because these look older looking by anime proportion standards, but I will say she is wearing the same school outfit, so she might very well be like a first year, or maybe they'll do the joke where she's actually older than everybody else because of this yellow bow. So she might be a first year and these might be third year middle school, high school students. She's definitely not wearing the standard school uniform that a elementary school student in Japan would wear. And again, we'll have to see if something like this makes it to the West or makes it to Steam in particular. Of course, I'm also coming from the perspective assuming that this character also is a romantic interest at all. She may just be a character that is not involved in any of the romance. Moving on, Dragon Quest X Offline details Puka Land content, which, yeah, I don't think that's going to make me any more impressed with Dragon Quest X Offline, which seems like it's too simplistic, too low polygon for my taste. GameDeveloper.com news now. Thrills and Quills. They have a developer insight. The ink-based combat and magical manuscripts of Inculinati, which I guess you could check out this article if you're interested. I don't believe this game is out yet. I haven't seen it released. We had already talked about the former PlayStation IT workers suing for gender discrimination. We had already talked about Nintendo criticizing Activision Blizzard. Pokemon Go's developer Niantic has netted $300 million to create a real-world metaverse. It really feels like the phrase metaverse is just going to be used all over the place. Tiny Build has acquired the Banner Saga publisher Versus Evil and the Red Studio, QA Studio Red Cerberus. Activision Blizzard has formed, their board has formed an anti-harassment committee after already backing Bobby Kotick. So, I mean, when you say you're forming a committee, that usually means you're doing nothing. So, yeah, I would not put a lot of faith into that. We already talked about Amazon Studios to develop Mass Effect television show. This is new news. There is a report according to GameDeveloper.com that Tencent has been suspended from updating or launching apps in China.
I bring unto you serenity.
Regulators have described the ban as, quote, temporary administrative guidance, which, yeah, sure, that's Chinese authoritarian doublespeak, for sure. And it definitely shows how Tencent could be very earnest and honest in their desire to acquire foreign companies as a way of getting out from under the thumb of China instead of being a state-sponsored actor who's just trying to acquire as many companies as possible and manipulate foreign companies for the Chinese government, which has always been the feeling, or the accusation is that these Chinese companies are just acquiring foreign companies so that they can force them to put like Chinese propaganda in their games or not talk about certain issues. That being said, China is such an authoritative company that they punish even the people that are really doing them favors. They don't, I guess communism or authoritativeness has no friends in the long run.
What fine threads you have.
Or it could be more of a scenario that both are true, certainly, and then Tencent just did something to piss off somebody. In general, China has said that they really weren't approving any games anyways, and they just hate video games so much. Like, you really can't do business with China. You can't do business in China as far as video game companies are concerned. It's just not going to work.
Best of luck to you.
This is going to work out poorly for me. I'm going to end up with either a whole bunch of puppets, or I'm going to end up with a whole bunch of puppets on the field that I have to kill. The story continues here. China says Chinese regulators, however, have reportedly taken issue with a number of the company's apps for violating regulations and infringing users' rights. I seriously doubt Chinese regulators care one bit as far as infringing users' rights. They probably mean something closer like not enforcing like bans. Remember, China is the company that China is the country that has specifically said they want you to play, like, want kids under 18 to play at most 3 hours a week of video games.
Stop!
Maximum.
Stop!
Yeah. There really isn't much here being translated from the South China Morning Post, which seems to be a fairly decent source of information for China news, best as you can get. Tencent says they've issued a statement that is cooperating with authorities in inspecting its app. It's also reassuring players and users that its products remain functional and available for download.
You were done for.
It would be kind of ironic if it turns out that there is just like a whole bunch of spyware or violating or gambling or something just really awful that everybody hates in Tencent games in China in particular, and because of that they are legitimately being punished. But I mean, you just really can't trust that.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Let's see, do we want to evolve here?
Begin.
The design fault lies with you.
Let's see.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
We'll just back up to our max number of puppets. Can't really do anything else, so we'll leave it there.
I'll protect you with everything I've got.
Let's see. Moving on, the Forgotten City publisher, Plug-in Digital, has netted $75 million to expand. They intend to continue expanding in the digital and physical space with global multi-platform IP. Yep, this is one of those companies that has had that initial success, so we would want to see them probably do something big and bold and slightly different compared to what they've offered and shown us so far.
The design fault lies with you.
Okay.
I am such a genius.
Play this.
Hostile life form detected.
Go ahead and play this.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Watch as I wind and wind.
We already talked about Epic Games acquiring Harmonix. They have a feature here for the history-driven design of Ambition, A Minute of Power. I believe I've heard of this game. I don't know if it really is a game worth covering or talking about. If I am going to cover it, I don't need to really read an advertisement article about it. And then Atari is going to sink up to $3.5 million into the retro game streaming platform Antstream. Of course, this is the investment group that owns Atari, not the old Atari. Okay. What do we do now? Puppets everywhere.
A spin and a twirl and out. There's our puppet again.
2.
Terminating hostile life
3.
form. Heavy impact sustained.
Didn't play quite right there. 4.
I mustn't give in.
Verifying access.
1.
Useless puppets get no love. Oh, my beloved Nava.
Accept harmony.
I think I messed up here.
Look who I am now.
Watch as I wind and wind.
Messed up and didn't play fast enough. Let's see. We have a game on Steam here called Cattle 101 Sample Library, which does not look like a game at all. It's free to play, I guess, but that's about all you can say for it. We'll try and go through some games. This will be the last game we play. Here we have a game called Spell Sweeper, which looks like nothing. 1079, English and Japanese.
Here I come.
Here we have a game called 16, which looks like it's some kind of puzzle game, but it also looks like a low effort asset flip game. $1.99, English only. Here we have a game called Tilting Tiles, which I think we can dismiss. $3.99, bunch of languages. Here we have Myths and Reality Fairylands. Collector's Edition, looks like a hidden object game or a collection of mini games. $13.99, English only, we can say no to that. Here we have Alpine, the simulation game. There might be something to this, since it looks like it might be a skiing game. Several languages, English and German, full audio. Let's put that one on the follow list. Here we have Onanoko Keeper 3, which I think is just one of these standard like line games where you draw boxes to reveal more of the image, and the anime girls in the background. Let's see, 99 cents, several languages. There is no nudity, in case you're interested, because I imagine some people could have thought there would have been.
Ephemeral lives.
So we have a Philosopher's Stone and Minerva. Looks like a standard RPG Maker 8-bit RPG game. $6.79, English, Japanese, Chinese. Here we have a game called Eva Silix. That's quite a mouthful. There might be something to this, so I'll give it a follow. $13.49, English only. We have a game called Flannel Amethyst. It's probably nothing here, but I'll give it a chance. $1.29 English only. I probably am being too generous on that one. Here we have a game called Clock Knockers, which looks too low polygon for its own good. Let's see, 99 cents English only. Here we have a game called Pregnant, which is a horror game, dark screenshot syndrome. Looks just like a horror asset flip game. And see, they don't even bother to show like what the monster is in a lot of these cases. I think that's probably because in a lot of these cases there really isn't even a monster, or you barely even see it. And so the name Pregnant doesn't really mean anything, it seems. At least as far as I've figured it out. Yeah, it doesn't even say that the person you're playing as is pregnant. It says the person you're playing is Gretchen, a young amateur detective. Maybe she's pregnant, but I'd suspect not. This is English only. I have to say no to that. Here we have a game called Town of Destruction, which they're calling a Sokoban box pushing game. This doesn't look like a Sokoban box pushing game. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Seems like the whole world flies up, which is an interesting effect. Are you then supposed to just grab things out of the air and put them back together? I mean, it does not feel like there's really a gameplay mechanic here. Yeah, it seems like things just get exploded and you're expected to just put things back where they belong. And if different things are connected to different things, it doesn't seem like that's the case. Well, that's a weird looking game. 94 cents English only, but it does not feel like it actually is a game, so I'm going to say no. Here we have a horror game called Deranged. Tons of horror games. And again, this doesn't feel like this is much of anything other than just like a horror asset flip game. But I'll give it a chance on this one. Well, I won't give it a chance because it doesn't support English. It's only Spain, Spanish, and Latin America. Retro Three Kingdoms is already mostly negative, so I think we can easily dismiss that. I think I'd probably dismiss it anyways. Free to play with in-app purchases, it's an MMO. Mortal Online 2 is mixed, which means I think I can dismiss that, even though this does look better polished than most. Early access, MMO. I'm not going to play any MMOs. In Shape 2 looks like just a kind of infinite runner game where you have to get the right shape in the right lane. It's not a terrible thought, but it's not much of a game. $2.59 English only. We can say no to that. Here we have one that's all in Chinese. It looks like Chinese chess. Or Japanese chess, shogi. $2.99, Chinese only. We have something called Catfish Island, which looks like a fishing game. I'd probably say no to this. $4.99 English only. But in my effort to move fast, I'm just going to put it on the fall list. Yep. Mito and Dio, or Mito and D. Looks like nothing of good quality. $3.59, whole bunch of languages. Nope to that. Tunnel of Doom. Some kind of roguelike. It actually looks polished enough to deserve a follow. $12.59 English only. I don't even particularly want to get through all the games today. I would just like to get through enough of them to not have a ton left over on Friday. But then there is a high chance that nothing comes out on Friday. This game being Ball. I don't think there's quite enough of a game here, but I think I might give it a chance. $14.99 English only. That's a little too expensive for already giving it a lot of faith. We have a game called Dark Magician, which looks like nothing of interest. $3.99 English, Portuguese, Brazil. League Manager 2022 we can immediately dismiss. 21-24, several languages. Frankenstorm Tower Defense. Looks fine for a tower defense game, but I'm never going to cover that. It's free to play, so then I don't even know how they make money. Here we have something called Render B, which definitely looks like it's not really a game. Free VR game. Close that. We have a game called Lucent Bounds, which looks like nothing of interest. $3.99 English and several other languages. I can definitely feel my eyes being tired. I don't know if that's because of the lights being lower or what. Here we have a game called R Not, which looks like nothing. $8.99 English only. Here we have a game called Ninja Blast, which looks like total garbage. Early access, English, Portuguese, Brazil. Here we have a game called Suicide for Him, which looks like a Yandere simulator clone that frankly looks just as good, if not better, than Yandere Simulator. Early access, English, allegedly full audio, $5.99. I'm gonna put this on the follow list just to see how people review it. By the way, Yandere Simulator is still nowhere close to actually being released. This Icebox game looks like nothing. Coming soon. Here we have something called Satogariri, which looks like a more Asian horror asset flip game. It still doesn't really look like anything of interesting. A J-horror walking simulator. That's what it's described as. $2.99 Japanese only. There is the myth that an item that does like 100 years or more of service will gain a spirit in Japanese myth and culture, where umbrellas come to life and they have spirits or hammers and things like that. And I'd heard about that myth, and then I was thinking the Nickelodeon cartoon All Real Monsters, one of the monsters really did look like an umbrella handle. So I wonder if there was actually some inspiration there. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic. I don't recognize the other two monsters of the main characters of All Real Monsters, though, as being something specifically inspired by Japanese culture or myth, but they are kind of weirdly made up things. Really wouldn't change much if there was a slight visual inspiration there, because the movies, the cartoon itself really didn't have any influence there. Here we have a game called Robin Hood Spring of Life, which looks like it's a town resource management game of no interest. $5.94 English, German, and Russian. Here we have something called Drone VR. There were these drone games for a brief time that looked like they might actually be good. This is not one of them. And we've stopped seeing those as drones have stopped becoming something of interest. $2.54 English only. Here we have a game called King Under the Mountain that looks uninteresting. Kind of feels like Dungeon Keeper if you wanted to take all the fun out of Dungeon Keeper. Yeah. I really have no reason to play a game like Dungeon Keeper unless you have the fun ridiculousness happening there. Evil Genius is about as far as I'm willing to go as something that is slightly less fun thematically to Dungeon Keeper. Honestly, they just need to remake Dungeon Keeper. $22.49 is way too expensive for that game. We have a game called Forza Polpo, which, man, every single image is too bright here. Like, normally I'm complaining about dark screenshot syndrome. Very rarely do I have to complain about the screen being too bright. And I am fairly certain that's not my eyes going bad. $13.59. English, allegedly full audio. We'll say no to that. And I am predicting at some point here we are going to run in. I'm going to just stop talking about my eyes and completely forget about it. And it will turn out to be nothing. Fingers crossed that's exactly the case. Here we have a troll joke game, Obama boss fight, which, yep, I have no reason to play something like that. $6.29, English and Russian. Here we have a text-only game, Cliffhanger, Challenge of Tomorrow, which I have no reason to play that. $3.95, English only. Here we have Himigimi Detective, which is some kind of visual novel. Which I guess we just have to leave that on the fall list and see how it gets reviewed. $19.99, English and Japanese. I think we're close to being done. Here we have a game called Trachi. I don't want to immediately dismiss this as an RPG game, RPG Maker game, but I think it is an RPG Maker game. It's free, English only, so I guess check it out if you're interested. Here we have Middle Ages Jigsaw Puzzle, which obviously we won't do anything with that. For $2.39, English only. I have about 5 more games to cover. Here we have something called Life is a Machine, which looks like it's a low effort hangman game. More than anything. Murder investigation game in which you play hangman at some point. $2.09, English only. Here we have a game called Side Quest. Looks like garbage. Looks like a joke troll game. $11.24, English only. Here we have a game called Derailed, which might be a horror first-person shooter of quality. I suspect not, but I'll give it a follow. $4.99, third-party EULA, English, allegedly full audio. And finally we have a game called Annie Vinge, which looks like a Frogger game, but I don't know if it really is. Or maybe it's a Frogger game where people can crash into each other and cause car accidents. Which, in all fairness, if there is a car accident, the odds of you getting hit, I think, go up significantly. The unpredictability of a scenario like that makes that highly likely. Alright, so I'm now just going to go through my main Twitter feeds and see if there's any new news to talk about, and then we'll end the stream, which going 3 hours and 40 minutes is unfortunately about standard. I've still yet to figure out a way to speed this whole process up. And yeah, Apparently, blog users are still having trouble with logins on the old Gamma Sutra website compared to using the new site. Apparently, Roblox Corp is suing a YouTuber over online harassment for $1.6 million. We'll talk about that, I guess, on Friday. That does not seem like that is going to go well for Roblox. Frankly, you're either going to make a martyr of somebody who is a harasser, or you're going to make your companies feel like a like the bully. It's punching down. It's going to feel like punching down no matter what. Whether it really is or not. Now I managed to... Gotta do it at least one stream, I guess. You've got to accidentally drag one of these pin tabs. Let's go in and open this. I guess we'll buy the other one with tickets later. There's no reason to do that now. Alright. Still going down my Twitter feeds here. See if there's any new news. It definitely is very confusing. Certainly the way I have the monitor set up right now. But I do feel like I probably helped my neck a little bit. Probably not as much as I should have, though. My neck does still feel kind of crimped because I am looking up to do a lot of reading. If anything, specifically for playing Shadowverse, it might be better to have the game on top just because I don't look at the game anywhere as intensely as I look at the news. According to Video Games Chronicles, as far as news, Battlefield's head of design is leaving DICE this week following the release of 2042. That's not super crazy for that to happen. See, Life is Strange True Colors is finally coming to Switch in December. It'll be initially available digitally ahead of a physical release in 2022. Sledgehammer has disabled Warzone's new Secrets of the Pacific event while investigating widespread Call of Duty Vanguard crashing issues. That's just more bad news for Call of Duty Vanguard. Then one more Twitter feed and then we'll be done for today. Borderlands is selling a Tiny Tina and Butt Stallion figurine, 8-inch figurine with the Epic Games store key, 5 special character cards, 2 fabulous 4-inch mini figurines, and 3,000 mighty coins. Which, yeah, the whole Butt Stallion joke has been played out way too much. See, the National Video Game Museum in Frisco will be closed for Thanksgiving and open on normal hours starting again on Black Friday, which anything being open on Black Friday is probably a mistake at this point. reminder to tell people that Black Friday is the perfect time to not buy anything if you can all avoid it for many different reasons. One of the reasons including the fact that this year there is a big push to do a great resignation, great strike action, push companies, particularly Walmart, towards their unionization and less union busting. And so there is an argument to supporting that, if you do support that. Dracula Dead and Loving It, the Mel Brooks movie, is on Blu-ray for the first time. I guess the question is, what would be the features on that? That's certainly something that I would want to check before I bought any new Blu-rays at all. Are the Blu-rays going to be good up renders to like 2K or 4K, and are they going to have good features? There definitely were a lot of Blu-rays that came out that didn't have the same bonus materials that DVDs had, and if you wanted to actually see all those bonus materials, although a lot of it is just junk, you would end up totally end up buying 2 different copies of the same thing. Anyways, that has nothing to do with video games, and we are done for today. So, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.